In her previous life, my sister chose 5 million over a 985 university. She used the money to buy a house for her brother and help him get married, doing everything she could to support her birth family. Later, she spent all her savings, was married off by her parents with just 2 quilts, had 3 children early, and her life was in shambles. Meanwhile, I got into a 985 university, went straight to a PhD, settled abroad, and became a Wall Street elite. During my visit home, my sister, heavily pregnant, was busy in the kitchen taking care of the family. My parents and brother treated her with disdain, but they treated me like a distinguished guest. My sister harbored resentment and strangled me while I was asleep. When I woke up again, I was back after the college entrance exam. She chose 985 before I could. Sister, in this life, the one recognized by our parents will only be me. 1. I want 985. My sister's voice snapped me out of my daze. Only then did I realize I had been sent back to the day the fates presented us with our choice. The person before me, my sister Jillian, had already pressed the button for the 985 university. Her eyes shone with anticipation as she said, "Little sister, in this life, it's my turn to bring honor to our family." I was speechless. Even after being reborn, she was still desperately seeking her parents' approval. I remember in our past life, when the 2 choices were laid before us, she chose the 5 million without a second thought. Back then, she said, "Perfect, with this money, Mom and Dad won't have to struggle so much anymore." She bought a big house for the family, gold jewelry for her mother, paid for her brother to attend a private high school, and allowed the whole family to live a lavish, carefree life. I advised her to give her parents a reasonable amount for household expenses and keep the rest for further studies. She wouldn't listen at all. Do you need to be wary of your own parents? Besides, with so much money, why bother going to school? Later, when my brother graduated and got married, the house naturally became his marital home. I urged her again to clarify the property rights, or else she'd find herself in a difficult position at home later on. She still wouldn't hear it. "What are you so worried about? Not only did I buy the house, but he's my own brother. Do you really think there won't be a place for me to stay once he's married?" After the wedding, just as I feared, my sister-in-law couldn't stand having her sister-in-law living with them, and arguments became a constant occurrence. My brother pretended not to see or hear anything. To please his wife, my parents kept telling my sister to be more accommodating. At that time, I was already pursuing my PhD abroad. My sister called me to vent her frustrations. I advised her to cut her losses and that she could sue to get the house back. She completely blew up. "I'm telling you this so you won't go stirring up trouble. Do you think everyone is as selfish as you, only caring about your own studies and never sending a single penny home all these years?" She hung up the phone in a rage. Seeing my attempts at mediation were futile, I had no choice but to give up. Not long after, my sister was introduced to a rural man in his 30s. She wanted to ask our parents for the remaining savings to use as her dowry, but my mother immediately retorted, "What money? You've been living and eating at home all these years, and we've spent a fortune, at least a million yuan, raising you, and we haven't even asked you to repay us." They received 200,000 yuan in betrothal gifts and sent her off with just 2 quilts. When I returned home for a visit, my sister already had 2 children and was busy in the kitchen, heavily pregnant. She looked much more haggard, and her child was dressed in dirty clothes. It was clear they weren't doing well. When my parents saw the Mercedes I was driving, their eyes crinkled into slits, their faces creased with smiles. My brother and sister-in-law were even more effusive, having their kids swarm around me, each one chirping auntie. Seeing my sister cooking alone, I went to help, but my mother stopped me. "Why bother with her? She's just destined for poverty, a good-for-nothing her whole life." I couldn't help but feel a deep sense of sorrow. She sacrificed half her life for her birth family, only to be treated this way. However, while I sympathized with her, she grew to hate me. That night, she quietly sneaked into my room and strangled me in my sleep. Before I died, all I heard was a hysterical accusation. "Why, I've done so much for the family, yet my parents still call me unfilial. You're living it up abroad, not lifting a finger to help, and they treat you like a god. Why does the whole family favor you?" I tried to open my mouth to explain, but no words came out. Finally, I died suffocating too. My thoughts snapped back to the present. Right after Jillian made her choice, I calmly walked up to the deity and pressed the button for 5 million. A snide voice came from behind me. "Don't you dare spend a single cent of this money, you're saving it for your parents." I rolled my eyes and ignored them. 3. After receiving the money, I immediately went to the police station, reported my household registration book as lost, and got a new one within 10 minutes. Then, I went to the bank to deposit 3 million. Afterwards, I bought a high-speed train ticket to another city, found a hotel to stay in, and Started contacting study abroad agencies. According to the rules of fate, once the money is taken, the college entrance exam scores will be reset to 0. The only way for me to go to university was to study abroad. In a past life, I advised Jillian to take this path, but she clearly didn't take it seriously. While she was spending lavishly on her parents and younger brother, I was in university, worrying about tuition while desperately trying to boost my GPA and conduct research she would never know how many sleepless nights it takes to go from a regular 985 university to a PhD at an Ivy League school. She would never know that every single day I spent abroad, I was counting the pennies in my bank account. Back then, I truly envied her. If I had that kind of money, I wouldn't have had to suffer through such hardship. Fortunately, in this life, I've been granted a completely different set of opportunities, sparing me from reliving the struggles of my past. Figuring out how to manage this money wisely is another challenge for me. Having just turned 18 in less than a day, my mom called. "Celine, where are you? Your sister says you won a $5 million jackpot. How come you didn't say anything?" Just as I thought, Jillian told her parents about the $5 million. I was lying in my newly checked-in hotel room, leisurely sipping a drink. "Yeah, what's up, Mom?" The voice on the phone was practically bubbling with excitement. "Perfect, you need to come home right now. Your father and I have been worried sick about the housing situation. With this money, we can pick out a nice property, get your brother into a better school, and your dad's car is on its last legs. It's high time for a new one. Our family's future is finally looking bright." She went on and on, planning how to spend the money as if those $5 million were already in the bag. I listened to her finish, my face expressionless, and let out a cold laugh. I was infinitely grateful that I hadn't gone home after getting the money. "Mom, when did I ever say I was giving this money to you?" The voice on the phone sharpened. "Celine, what do you mean? The point is, I plan to spend this money myself, so you don't need to keep thinking about it." She got anxious. "Celine, your father and I are out here breaking our backs on the construction site in this sweltering heat, and what are you doing? Off gallivanting around with all that money? Do you have no conscience at all?" I finished the last of my juice, let out a yawn, and said lazily, "Mom, who exactly are you two killing yourselves for? Surely it's not for my sake." Even before the college entrance exams, she had been crying to my sister and me about how tough things were at home, saying we'd have to figure out our own tuition. They can't afford the 4,000 yuan annual tuition for a public undergraduate program, but they've already saved 500,000 yuan for their younger brother. The reason: boys have a lot of pressure when it comes to getting married. They usually eat steamed buns with pickled vegetables at construction sites, and they don't buy new clothes all year round. Every time they ask for living expenses, they send us photos of themselves working under the sun. Jillian felt sorry for them, saying that Mom and Dad had it tough and that we should be understanding, but it never occurred to her to ask, just who were they working so hard for? On the phone, the urgency grew, and her mother's voice exploded. "What kind of nonsense are you spouting? Have we ever mistreated you, even once? Your whole life, I carried you for 9 months, raised you with all my sweat and toil, and you don't have a shred of gratitude. Go ask around. How many families don't even send their daughters to high school? How many parents could provide for you the way we have? Why can't you be more like your sister and be more sensible? Can't you understand how hard your parents have it?" By the end, her voice started to choke with emotion. Seeing Mom cry because of me, Jillian took the phone and started scolding me. "Celine, you're incredibly selfish. Just because they made you earn your own tuition, you've held a grudge against Mom and Dad. They've already raised us. They're not obligated to pay for our college education. You need to be grateful and not take their sacrifices for granted. It's only natural for a daughter to help out financially when she has the means. In a few years, when we get married, we'll be outsiders. How many more years do we have to parents?" I was speechless again. Some people's thinking is worthy of their suffering. Yes, I'm selfish and unfilial. How can I compare to my sister, the ultimate super-duper filial daughter? So, Mom, make sure she helps out a lot when the family is in need. My brother's house and dowry will depend on her." He hung up without waiting for a reply. 5. I signed the contract with the agency and began preparing for the TOEFL and SAT exams. My parents couldn't reach me. Their calls, which started off sporadically, gradually shifted from emotional guilt-tripping about filial duty to something else entirely. "It's not that I want your money, honey. It's just not safe for a young woman like you to be carrying so much cash around. Come home and let us keep it safe for you. Don't you trust your own mother?" I just shrugged it off with a laugh. While I was holed up in an air-conditioned hotel room cramming for the TOEFL, Jillian landed a summer job at a factory, working 12-hour days for a monthly wage of 2,500 yuan. When summer ended, Just before the new semester started, she posted on her social media she'd saved up over 2 months' wages, a total of 6,000 yuan. It looks like the tuition for the first year is covered, but just 2 days later, I came across my mom's TikTok again. She asked her followers, wearing a new gold bracelet, "Did my daughter buy this for me during her summer job? Isn't it pretty?" Many people below expressed their envy, praising her for having such a filial daughter. My mom bragged, "Exactly, she was originally going to use that money for tuition. I just mentioned wanting a bracelet but being too frugal to buy one myself, and she went and got it for me right away." She then showed off the leather shoes Jillian bought for dad and the wristwatch for my brother, sparking another wave of envy from the netizens. Someone asked, "So there can't be much of her paycheck left, right? What about the tuition? Are you guys going to cover it?" My mom said, "No way, she can take out a loan herself." Netizen, "Is that really okay? She's still young, she finally earned a bit of money, just let her keep it for herself." My mom, "Raising a daughter is just raising her for someone else's family. You spend money on her in her maiden home, and she earns money for her in-laws. If you don't get some payback early, you'll be at a loss when she's married off." A younger netizen couldn't take it anymore. This prince's mom has taken her son preference to a whole new level, even scheming over her own daughter's tuition. "What a bloodsucker." My mom fired back angrily, "How am I showing son preference? If I favored sons, would I have even let my daughter go to university? Isn't it only right that she shows filial piety to her parents when she earns money?" Young people these days are so selfish, with no sense of family duty at all, just like my ungrateful second daughter. The comment section got even more lively. "Oh my god, 2 older sisters and 1 younger brother, and you still claim it's not son preference. That's a classic carry on the family line name if I've ever seen one." She calls her second daughter an ungrateful wretch. Sounds like the second daughter woke up and stopped being her cash cow, and now mom's having a meltdown. My mom, having had a nerve struck, blew up and started going back and forth with the netizens. I swiped past it casually, with respect and blessings. 6. Jillian started her student loan journey, and I received an offer from a QS top 10 university half a year later, embarking on my overseas study adventure. My mom was furious again when she found out, "You can't even get into a domestic university, and now you're just buying a diploma abroad to goof off. Let's see what you'll amount to." I calmly sipped my coffee, too lazy to respond. After that, I buried myself in my studies, and my contact with home gradually diminished. I only ever catch glimpses of Jillian's life, and that's just the occasional post that pops up on my social media feeds. She's either working a job or on her way to the next one. Throughout her college years, she never took a cent from her family. In fact, she often sent them money and gifts, sometimes hundreds or even thousands at a time, and her parents, upon receiving the money, would praise her for being so responsible and filial. Unlike that ungrateful sister of hers who just vanished, she took immense pride in this in her social media posts. Besides making passive-aggressive digs at her immature little sister, me, she'd also casually gripe about her only child roommate, calling her selfish and extravagant for having a monthly allowance of 3,000 yuan. 7. The next news I received from back home was that my younger brother, Jason, had failed his high school entrance exams. My mom wants me to bring him to the US. Mom doesn't mind you wasting so much money, as long as you raise your younger brother well. I hear school bullying is pretty bad abroad. Find him a good private school. Boys are careless and can't take good care of themselves, so you should live together, do laundry, cook, and look out for each other. She rambled on, painting her delusional fantasies, and her calculations landed across the ocean right in my face. It's been a long time since I heard such a funny Soviet joke. I almost spat out the iced Americano in my mouth. Dear Mom, American high schools aren't trash dumps. If he can't even get into a regular high school in China, do you really think going abroad will turn his life around? And, do I look like a sucker to you? What kind of talk is that? He's your own brother. Do you really need to speak so harshly? Her voice took on an irritated tone. Boys are just late bloomers with more stamina. Under China's high school entrance exam tracking system, boys generally get the short end of the stick. Besides, what's the big deal about you looking out for your little brother? We never said a word about all the money you spent studying abroad. But when it comes to your brother, you won't even lift a finger to help him get into high school. Don't think you're something special just because you have a bit of money now. A person without vision won't get far. They could squander a mountain of gold and silver. She unleashed a barrage of arguments. I couldn't help but laugh at her unbeatable logic. I really don't feel like arguing. I just sent her a meme of retail investors in the US stock market, wailing in utter despair. Mom, it's not that I don't want to help. I just don't have any money left. I wanted to Invest in US stocks to make more, but I picked the wrong ones and lost almost everything. Why don't you lend me some instead? Once I make my money back, I promise I'll get little brother into an Ivy League school." She was absolutely furious. "I knew you were a spendthrift. Look at what you've done with all that money." Cursing, he hung up the phone. The world finally fell silent. After that, I heard my parents sign Jason up for a 5-year vocational college, but his scores were so low that he had to pay tens of thousands in sponsorship fees to get in. Meanwhile, Jillian was approaching graduation. She wanted to pursue postgraduate studies, but her mom kept saying it was too stressful and hoped she could start contributing to the family sooner, so she reluctantly joined the ranks of campus recruiters. Having spent these years working odd jobs, her academic record was mediocre and her resume nearly blank. On top of that, her major was in a niche language, making it hard to find relevant work. In the end, she somewhat aimlessly took the civil service exam to become a teacher in her hometown. Meanwhile, I graduated with top marks from an Ivy League school and, with a professor's recommendation, secured a PhD spot even more effortlessly than in my previous life. 9. Not long after Jillian started her new job, I came across a new post she had made. "My parents want to use my Provident Fund to buy a house, but this house might become my brother's wedding home in the future. What should I do?" The netizens below exploded, urging her, "Sister, don't be foolish. This house definitely won't be yours. They're making you bear decades of loans, and you'll lose your first-time homebuyer status. Your parents are really calculating." However, she didn't respond to any of these well-meaning comments. A few days later, she still posted a photo of the property certificate. "Thank you all. My mom said this house belongs to our whole family, and even if I get married in the future, there will always be a room for me at home, and rest assured, I'm very clear-headed. I won't become a sister-in-law who spoils her brother." The netizens who had genuinely tried to talk some sense into her the other day were absolutely livid. 10. I saw my family again after earning my doctorate. When I returned to China to visit my grandmother, I was a left-behind child growing up, raised entirely by my grandmother. I heard she hasn't been in good health these past few years and has been wanting to see me, both out of sentiment and reason. I had to go back. It happened to be during the New Year period, a time for family gatherings. After not seeing him for years, Jason had graduated from his associate's program. His family pulled some strings to get him a job, and he even had a girlfriend now. Over the years, Jillian has spent almost all her salary on the family, and her parents are living a luxurious life adorned with gold and silver. During the conversation at the dinner, relatives all praised her parents for their good fortune, with all their children being successful, and their second daughter being a PhD who returned from studying in the US. My mother rolled her eyes. What success could she possibly have? She hasn't even called in all these years, and when she came back from abroad, she came empty-handed. We've wasted our efforts raising her. Compared to my previous life where I worked my way through school and returned with loads of gifts, this time I not only spent the $5 million she considered family money, but also came back empty-handed, which is truly rebellious and unfilial. Jillian chimed in as well. Exactly, one must first learn to be a decent human being, without repaying the kindness of one's parents. No matter how high one's education, they are still a scoundrel. The mother and daughter sang in unison, openly and covertly criticizing the crimes I had committed over the years. The looks from those around me gradually grew more complicated. Seeing this, my relatives began to criticize me. "Your sister is right. One should not forget one's roots. It wasn't easy for your parents to raise you to the level of a PhD, so you should always think of them when you're away. Your brother is also grown up now, and when he gets married and has children, your parents' burden will definitely be heavy. You should help share some of that burden. The ones who didn't even support me through my undergraduate studies are now taking credit for my PhD." I rolled my eyes countless times in my mind, but still smiled on the surface. "Oh, dear aunts, don't worry. With my sister around, why would I need to worry? Eldest sister is like a mother. No matter if it's taking care of our parents in their old age or my brother's wedding, my sister definitely won't turn a blind eye." "Right." I winked at Jillian. She gave me a disdainful look. "Of course. Do you think everyone is as heartless as you?" The relatives then turned and praised her for her filial piety and gratitude. Having received their approval, she was brimming with pride. With our roles reversed in this life, I became the one my mother disapproved of. Her efforts had finally paid off. 11. After the banquet, my grandmother wanted to keep me there for the night. There was also an empty room at home, but Jason said that his girlfriend would be coming to stay in a few days, so it had to be kept for her. Jillian also sneered. "Someone who doesn't contribute to the family has no right to live at home." Right, I couldn't be bothered to argue with them, so I turned left at the door and checked into a 5-star hotel, booking a 1-month executive suite. 12. The next day, I went to pick up my forgotten luggage, just as Jason was bringing his girlfriend home. The girl's name is Lucia, and she's very beautiful. When her eyes landed on me, there was clear disdain. Jason, didn't you say your eldest sister was getting married soon? Why is there another sister? Jason was lying on the couch playing a game, not even bothering to lift his eyelids. Oh, her, she's always out, doesn't live with us, don't worry about her. The girl frowned, looking rather displeased. Jason quickly put down his phone to comfort her. Don't worry, my mom said the house is for us to use when we get married. No outsiders will be living there. Lucia's brow relaxed slightly upon hearing this, but her gaze toward me still carried an inexplicable hostility. It wasn't until I went downstairs to drive that she saw my Mercedes, her eyes widening in surprise. Is this your car? I just smiled, said nothing, and walked away. 13. In less than 2 days, Jason called me. Hey sis, Lucia and I are going on a road trip this weekend. Can I borrow your car? I was lounging in the seaside villa, watching the Olympics and eating watermelon. I was baffled by this request. Don't you have your own car? His family bought him a Toyota when he graduated, and he's been driving it ever since. Lucia said she likes your ride, thinking back to how Lucia's eyes lit up yesterday, so that's what she was after. I took a bite of watermelon. Sorry, but if something happens when you lend your car out, the owner is legally liable. I can't take that risk. He immediately flew into a rage when he was turned down. Just let Lucia use it for a few days. What could possibly go wrong? What excuses are you making? Aren't you just being stingy? You're the most selfish one in the family, a complete egoist. I laughed. You're calling me selfish because your little scheme to take advantage of me fell through. If you want someone selfless, go ask someone else for the favor. With that, I hung up the phone, ignoring his impotent ranting. 14. The car borrowing attempt was a bust. I have no idea how Jason managed to smooth things over with his girlfriend. From that day on, he took Lucia shopping everywhere. When he ran out of money, he would ask his family for more. After some time, Lucia, who had been stubborn, finally agreed to get engaged. Seeing their son's marriage finally settled, his parents couldn't stop smiling. Their attitude towards me did a complete 180. My dad, for once, actually called and asked me to come home for dinner. My mom cooked up a huge feast and kept urging me to eat more. Last time you were in such a rush, we barely had a chance to talk. Today, it's just us, the family, let's have a proper get-together. My dad was busy serving me food, looking every bit the doting father. They never mentioned their disdain for me that day, nor how Jason had kicked me out, but you can't hit someone who's smiling, so I kept grinning and ate with gusto. After a moment, my dad finally spoke up, carefully choosing his words. You know about your brother's relationship, right? I'm focused on eating. Yes, I know. Your mom and I went to the girl's family and their condition is that you and your sister must get married first. What, you're trying to control everything under the sun? And now you're even meddling in my marriage. I tilted my head, sizing up the whole family. So, what does whether I get married or not have to do with them getting married? Jason cut in. Lucia said she doesn't want to live under the same roof with an outsider. It's all the same to me whether you consider me an outsider or not, but I don't live under the same roof with you, Jason. That doesn't matter. Lucia said that since we're married, you, as the older sister, need to have boundaries. Getting married early is a sign of respect for her. It doesn't sound good to say you're still unmarried at your age. I looked at his not-so-bright mind, then at my parents, who seemed to want to say something but hesitated. An idea suddenly popped into my mind. I gave a half-smile, half-serious look. I'm afraid it's not just that, is it? How much bride price did your Lucia ask for? Without hesitation, he said, 58,000, but Lucia said she just wants to see the attitude. Indeed, I glanced at Jillian. She was unusually quiet today, having remained silent since the moment I walked in, because right now, she and I were both like cuts of meat on a butcher's block, waiting to be sold to the highest bidder. Before I could respond, Jason continued, but even after you're married off, what belongs to the family stays with the family. The car you're driving now should be left here. My own car. Since when did it become family property? Your car. Money a girl earns before marriage belongs to the family, so this car naturally belongs to all of us. My mom jumped in to back up her son. The logic is as bulletproof as ever. I almost burst out laughing. Suddenly, I remembered when I was a kid, Jason had a whole cabinet of snacks, yet he still wanted to take my few candies. After struggling with him for a while, I finally won and got my things back. He then went to tattle to our parents. What awaited me was always a scolding without rhyme or reason. You're the older sister. Don't you know you should give in to your little brother. Over time, he seemed to realize he was the favorite. He got used to snatching things from me this way. First it was candy, now it's the car. It's a pity. That child has long grown up. I looked at my mother and sneered. So, which law states that girls cannot own personal property? Which law dictates that a single woman's income belongs to her parents and brothers? She angrily slammed the table and stood up. Do you even understand family bonds and filial piety when you talk about the law? You've read all those books for nothing, but your son just called me an outsider. Didn't he? I widened my eyes, looking at her innocently. She was left speechless. She stood there, dumbfounded, not knowing how to respond. After a long pause, she plopped down and started crying. Fine, you're educated. I can't argue with you. It's my bad luck. I've worked my whole life for this family, and my daughters are all a handful. I might as well be dead. First, she cries, then throws a tantrum, and finally threatens to hang herself. That's her go-to move when she's not in the right. The dutiful son immediately accused me. Celine, do you have any conscience at all? After all these years abroad, you didn't even bother to, and as soon as you come back, you upset Mom. Don't you dare apologize. I took my last bite, dabbed the corner of my mouth with deliberate slowness, and raised an eyebrow. I have no conscience. So what? Maybe you should call the police. With my hunger and thirst satisfied, I paid no mind to his hysterical shouting and strolled leisurely out the door. 15. Seeing that I was unyielding, my parents had to focus their efforts on Jillian first. They quickly contacted a matchmaker and arranged blind dates for her. In a small town, a matchmaker's word brings all sorts of unsuitable candidates. After much selection, they couldn't find a suitable one. My mom was getting impatient. That's enough. As long as he's honest and shows the right attitude, just make do with the rest. Keep being picky. Do you even want your brother to get married? Eventually, under their urging, Jillian settled with an older second-generation factory owner. They have excellent qualities and are very generous. My parents are very pleased. The wedding is set for next month. 16. After getting engaged, Jillian was back to her full self. She shared her wedding preparations daily on Moments, a big rock ring, a thick gold chain, a beautiful big house, and exquisite wedding photos. Everything was perfect except for the groom's not-so-young face and slightly overweight figure compared to the chaotic life of a poor couple in her previous life. It seems she has truly changed her fate in this one. In front of me, she couldn't resist flashing her shiny wedding ring with a sneer. There are 3 genders in this world: men, women, and female doctors. Well, you're just destined to be single. I remained expressionless. Oh, sold twice in both past and present lives. You're really lucky. What do you mean sold off? It's only a $380,000 bride price, and my parents even gave me $40,000 of it back as my dowry. That's more than generous, she said proudly. Well, it's certainly an improvement over the 2 quilts I got in my last life. I nodded earnestly. After all, the long-term value of a daughter who marries beneath her station is different from one who marries above it, playing the long game for a bigger catch. That's my parents for you. They are clueless in their careers, but when it comes to scheming about their daughter, they are exceptionally gifted. 17. Now that Jillian's marriage is settled, my mother is back to give me a lecture. Look at how well your sister married into a family that's both wealthy and respectful. You're not getting any younger, so finding a good family to marry into should be your priority. Do you really think we'd harm you? I listened to her, calculating word by word, calmly speaking up. Not enough to sell the eldest daughter. How much are you planning to sell me for? Oh, how much attitude are you asking for? Don't keep talking about selling daughters. Did you spring out of a crack in the rock? Don't you need to repay the nurturing kindness? Isn't it only right to receive some betrothal money? That's why they say raising daughters is a losing proposition. I blinked my eyes, looking at her seriously. So, is it easy for you to raise a son? Did your son spring out of a crack in the rock? Doesn't the nurturing kindness need to be repaid? What are you making a fuss about? Is it the same thing? Can a daughter be compared to a son? Indeed, they can't be compared. One is a PhD from an Ivy League school, one is an undergraduate from a top 985 university, and the other, who has taken all the resources at home, is just a private junior college graduate. Don't bring up these irrelevant things. No matter how good a daughter is, she's someone else's. A son is the one who belongs to the family. She rolled her eyes angrily and shouted. The conversation went sour, and we parted on bad terms, unable to gain anything from me. My parents had to use their savings, along with Jillian's dowry, to scrape together 580,000 yuan and let Jason get married. From then on, I became the black sheep of the family. Everyone who mentions me says I'm immature. Watching my parents drain their savings without lifting a finger to help. 18. I didn't care in the slightest and carried on with my life of leisure, traveling and indulging in good food and drink. At the same time, I didn't neglect my job search. Over the next 2 months, my inbox gradually filled with several job offers. There are options from major companies in North America, as well as from domestic universities. After much consideration, I chose to stay in the country. In my previous life, I stayed in the U.S. to work because I was financially strained after graduation and eager to make money. This time around, I have the confidence to choose the life I want. Studying science and engineering is all about bringing advanced technology back to my homeland. I accepted an offer from a university in Shanghai, embarking on my research journey. 6 months later, I started applying for research projects and publishing papers. Jillian started showing off her baby bump and the monetary rewards from her husband and in-laws. A year later, my project began to bear fruit, and my paper was published in a core journal. Jillian gave birth to a son. 2 years later, I secured a National Natural Science Fund and was promoted to associate professor. Jillian sent word that she's getting a divorce. 20. It turns out that ever since she got married, her parents had been pressuring her, reminding her of her filial duty and urging her to support her birth family. Over the past 2 years, she had given her parents over 200,000 yuan in total. This time, her younger brother was insisting on getting a new car, and she transferred another 300,000 yuan. After her husband found out, they had a big argument. She felt emboldened by the fact that she had given birth to a son. He's my own brother. My parents went through a lot raising me, so what's wrong with helping him out? Your parents spent millions on a house for your sister, and I didn't say a word. Now, when it comes to my brother, even a few 100,000 isn't worth spending. I gave your family a male heir, and this is how you treat the one who made the contribution. She wailed and screamed, her shocking outbursts truly opening people's eyes. When his parents heard about this, they were furious and warned her that if she kept making a scene, she could get out. But my mother, the mastermind behind the scenes, kept fanning the flames. You have your son to rely on. What are you afraid of? Just threaten divorce, and he'll come running back to appease you. Then he'll be completely under your thumb. And so, Jillian filed for divorce. I can't believe they actually agreed. 21. With this divorce, Jillian is left with almost nothing. The house was purchased by the husband before the marriage, so she has no claim to it. All of their post-marriage income was used by her to support her parents. The other party even sued her to recover the transferred assets. She left home in debt, with nowhere to go. The house she was paying for had become her brother's wedding home. She tried to discuss with her brother if she could go back and stay for a few days. Jason Ma jumped up. Are you trying to get me divorced too? Her parents also scolded her for being useless, unable to keep her husband, letting the cash cow get away. The once loving family, once again became as harsh as in their previous life. 22. After losing Jillian's financial support, Jason and Lucia's standard of living plummeted. To make matters worse, they were accustomed to a lavish lifestyle, and found it incredibly hard to tighten their belts. Their parents were getting on in years, couldn't earn much on the construction sites anymore, and could only offer limited help. Just as our family was struggling financially, my mom somehow found out about my recent situation. She contacted me with great enthusiasm. Celine, I heard you've become an associate professor. Your brother and his wife want to work in Shanghai. Can you arrange a position for them at your university? It should be easy, and the salary can't be too low. I was busy revising my paper, overwhelmed with work. He rejected her fanciful idea outright. The university isn't mine to run. Nowadays, there are professors everywhere, and everyone is arranging jobs for their relatives. There aren't even enough positions to go around. Can't you get your son to be more grounded and stop dreaming? She persisted. You're a leader. How could you not be able to do it? You're just stingy, unwilling to promote your own brother when you have the chance. When you're in trouble in the future, no one will help you. I knew there was no point in arguing. I didn't reply to her again. 23. However, just a few days later, someone anonymously reported me to the principal's office and even posted about it on the school's confession board. The contents of the accused me of academic misconduct, moral corruption, refusing to support my parents, and being unmarried at an older age due to a chaotic private life, among other things. Although these baseless allegations are not enough to get the school to take action against me, however, I have become a well-known figure on campus as a result, and I am often the subject of discussion when I walk by. Students who are unaware of the situation look at me with suspicion. I couldn't take it anymore and started investigating the source of the complaint letter. Eventually, after identifying the IP and email address, I determined that the sender was Lucia. This is a case of malicious retaliation after a failed job application tantrum. After pondering for a moment, I had a plan in mind. 20. The 8-square-meter rental room is cluttered with junk. Jillian looks haggard, with deep-set eyes, as if she's aged 10 years. Are you here to laugh at me? She sat at her cramped desk, her eyes Vacant. As a rural teacher, she earned over $5,000 a month, but after rent, utilities, loan repayments, and paying off her ex-husband's claims, she was suffocating under the pressure. "You've won again in this life," she said. "Now you're successful and famous, with money and reputation. If you go back, your parents will surely accept you." I coldly stared at her. "If, up until now, you're still seeking their approval, it would be the same even if you started over 100 times. She was completely covered in dust, looking dull and wilted. Hearing this, she slowly raised her head, staring blankly over. I took a deep breath and continued. "You seek validation through constant effort, proving your worth with money, education, and marriage. But have you ever wondered why Jason doesn't need any of that? As a daughter, you have to go all out just to earn a shred of approval. As a son, even the most useless one can be fully supported. That's the difference." Their love for their daughter came with conditions and a price tag, while their love for their son was unconditional and expected nothing in return. "Right before you died in our last life, you said Mom and Dad favored me, but search your heart, did they really favor me? What they favored was the elite aura around me, the wealth I brought, and my potential usefulness. The moment I lost all that, I'd be cast aside just like you, discarded like a worn-out shoe. So you and I were never rivals, we were just livestock raised in the same pen, waiting to see whose flesh would fetch a higher price." It was eerily quiet. Tears streamed down her vacant eyes. They dripped into the dusty, greasy desk. After a long silence, she burst into loud sobs. "But it's too late now." "How could it be too late?" I walked up to her and said, word by word, "You hold the deed to Jason's property, and the assets your ex-husband is after are in their hands. Wouldn't it be straightforward to sue to get them back?" After saying that, I left. Without waiting for her response, the seeds have been sown. What happens next is up to her. 1 month later, just as I had predicted, Jillian sued her parents and her brother. She demanded her share of the house and the return of the large sum of money she had previously transferred. As a result, the house was auctioned off by the court, and the family's savings were forcibly seized. Jason went berserk and stabbed Jillian at the courthouse entrance. Fortunately, the timely rescue prevented any life-threatening injuries. As expected, the parents' beloved son is now headed to prison to sew clothes, leaving the poor old couple utterly bewildered. Seeing the situation turn sour, Lucia planned to take the last of the money and run, but the summons for my lawsuit against her for defamation had already arrived at her door. 25. For many years after that, I never saw Jillian again. In this life, her realization and remorse are genuine. In the previous life, it is also true that she killed me with her own hands. There's no need to meet again. It's best if we each go our own way in peace. As summer fades to autumn, another new academic year begins with the arrival of freshmen. I walk across the university campus, promoting the scholarship fund I established in my own name to the new students. It offers encouragement to young women who lack the support of a stable family foundation. It's also a way to help the version of myself from a past life, who once worried endlessly about tuition. Story 2. My grandmother paid to buy a bride for my younger brother. When I told them that human trafficking was illegal, they beat me severely that night. I tried to help the girl escape, but my parents found out and locked me up, leaving me to starve to death. The next time I opened my eyes, I had traveled back to 3 days before my grandmother bought the bride. Facing my venomous family and the conspiring villagers before me, I secretly made a phone call. "My savior, you've finally remembered me." She was the Miaojiang saintess I had once saved. After all, the dark corners untouched by light are the perfect breeding ground for venomous creatures. After being reborn, I immediately rushed to the kitchen, grabbed the leftovers by the stove, and began devouring them ravenously. Once finished, I scooped up clean water with a ladle and gulped it down desperately. Only when I felt my stomach ache from being overstuffed did the haunting memory of starving to death in my past life slowly fade away. The pain cut straight to my soul. In my past life, I tried to sneak the weeping girl away under cover of darkness, but my brother lying in wait caught me. They locked me in the woodshed, gave me no food or water, and left me to starve to death. In my final moments, I saw Grandma slapping her thighs in despair. "Oh my grandson, I told you to give her water. She's dying of thirst." "So what? She's not my real sister anyway. What a waste of money. She hasn't even earned back what we paid for her." Mom tapped my brother on the head and said, "We could have just sold her off in a couple of years, you silly child." So I was bought too. They threw me down the mountain. Just before I blacked out, I glimpsed a woman through the haze. Her yellow scarf fluttered at the collar. She gave me a number and told me to seek help when I came to Luna. "You must find her. She will help you." "Luna, what are you doing?" Grandma's voice suddenly came from behind me. "I am hungry, just getting something to eat." Grandma shot me a glare when she saw I'd finished all the Leftovers, you're the greediest one in this family. Go make dinner now. Get yourself a job first thing come spring, lazy glutton. I can't stand the sight of you. After scolding me, Grandma went back to the yard and resumed doing handicrafts with Mom. Mom, when are you heading to the county seat? In 3 days. I've arranged it with them. She'll bring the girl to me in 3 days. My hand trembled, nearly dropping the spatula I was holding. So I had been reborn 3 days before Grandma bought a bride for my brother. Memories of my family's vicious sneers from my past life flooded back, along with the sound of that girl's heart-wrenching sobs. A string of numbers surfaced in my mind, the digits given to me by the woman with the yellow scarf. Go find her, she can help you. That afternoon, I slipped outside and dialed the number. The phone was picked up after just 2 rings, as if the person on the other end had been waiting for a long time. My savior, I'm coming to find you right now. Since today was the day Grandma was bringing home the new bride, even Dad came home early. Grandma arrived right when the sun was at its hottest. We're back, and we found a real treasure this time. The whole family had come out into the yard, except for my younger brother who was still lying in his room on his phone. From a distance, we could see Grandma grinning, her sparse teeth on full display. The girl trailing behind her was dressed in a coarse blue tunic, covered from head to toe in mud and looking quite grubby. Just look at this girl, only 20,000, even better than the one I picked last time. Granny was beaming with pride as she spun the girl around. She's got a strong build, just a bit thin, with some feeding up. She'll be bearing 2 in 3 years, no problem. My mother sized her up with a glance and asked, is she mute? Why isn't she saying anything? Granny waved her hand. No, she's just timid. That's good. Means she's well behaved and won't cause trouble. Granny said the girl's name was Baiwan. She crinkled her aged face into a smile and said to Baiwan, little Bai, from today onward, you're a daughter-in-law of our Zhao family. You're truly blessed to marry into our family. She gestured at my father's uniform. Your father-in-law works at the village police station. No one around here would dare mess with us. Your mother-in-law is easy to get along with too. As long as you build a good life with my grandson, everyone will treat you well. This is your husband's sister. When Grandma introduced me, Baiwan cast a fleeting glance in my direction. Her eyes held a pale, almost bluish clarity, utterly translucent. She wasn't the girl from my past life, yet I had no memory of ever meeting her before. Grandma asked me to take Baiwan to the side room. The girl's hands were ice cold. She remained silent throughout, her face completely expressionless. Since she didn't speak, I couldn't be sure if she was the person I'd spoken with. On the phone, in the side room, I lowered my voice and whispered, why, won't you speak? Baiwan stayed silent. Did they give you something? She quickly glanced over my shoulder. I turned around to find Grandma standing outside the window, watching us with a gentle smile. She'd followed us here without making a sound. I followed Grandma back into the main hall. The moment I stepped inside, she spun around and slapped me hard across the face. Her previously kind expression vanished, replaced by deep furrows creasing her brow. You little brat, watch your filthy mouth. Keep asking nosy questions and I'll sell you off too. She snapped at my parents. Son, that quiet one's full of tricks. Keep a close eye on her these next couple days, and make sure your brothers are in the loop too. Don't let that girl get away. Don't worry, Tyler's mother. Just give her some rice water these 3 days. Make sure she doesn't eat her fill. But don't let her starve either. Got it? My mom nodded. Then added smugly, raising a wife is just like raising a dog. Once she's been hungry enough, she'll know who's in charge. In my past life, this was exactly when I tried to talk them out of it. What followed was a stinging slap across the face from my father. The law. Around here, I am the law, this time around. I sat down quietly, remembering what the girl had said on the phone. Leave it all to me. Trust me, I'll make them pay. Everything felt off, but I couldn't get involved. In the afternoon, Dad returned to the police station, and Grandma coaxed my little brother into taking a peek at the side room. When my brother saw Baiwan through the window, all disheveled and dirty, he immediately got upset. I don't want someone like this. I want a wife from the city. I have nothing in common with women like her. My younger brother attended junior high in the county town, but dropped out before finishing. This is the 3rd year he's been idle at home. Both Grandma and Mom believe that getting him married will turn his life around. His mother chimed in. A wife's job is to work and bear children. What's all this nonsense about having things in common? No way. Look how filthy she is. Who knows what diseases she might have? Oh, Tyler, this type is actually cleaner. A good scrub with soap and she'll be spotless. Those pale city girls might look pristine, but they're the ones more likely to carry diseases. Don't you worry. After 3 days without food, Granny will fix her up real nice for you. You'll love her, I guarantee it. The two of them took turns trying to coax him, but in the end my brother just pouted, furrowed his brow, and went back to his room to continue playing video games. Following Grandma's instructions, Mom only gave Baiwan thin rice porridge to eat. I once secretly tossed 2 steamed buns in for her, but it seemed she didn't eat them. The next evening, Grandma asked me to take Baiwan to the river for a bath, but today, The usually quiet and docile Baiwan was struggling violently even though she kept insisting. I stay out of it. Seeing her struggle still frightened me. Worthless, get out of the way. Mom shoved me aside and landed a sharp slap across Baiwan's cheek. She didn't make a sound, but her mother hissed sharply, bringing her palm close to her eyes to inspect it. What is this? It's sharp. Her mother wiped her hand on her clothes and firmly pulled Baiwan out of the courtyard. Feeling uneasy, I followed slowly behind them. A familiar feeling welled up inside me. It felt as if in a past life, I had secretly followed my mother and this girl before. Winters here bring no snow, but the river water remains bitingly cold. Mother scrubbed Baiwan roughly with the cold water, revealing her startlingly pale skin beneath the grime. Her face was scrubbed clean, every last trace gone. A faint, delicate fragrance wafted from that direction, sweet and enticing. When Baiwan was brought home by her mother, the whole family set down their chopsticks, even her brother, who had been loudly declaring his disdain and had even thrown stones at Baiwan, was staring with his eyes wide and fixed. Just look at this, will you? Grandma declared proudly. My old eyes never miss a thing. The finest piece is always saved for my grandson. Baiwan's gaze swept across the room before settling on me, her lips curving into a gentle smile. Luna, come to these handicrafts after you finish the laundry. Oh, sure thing. Mom and Grandma picked up some bead stringing piecework from the county. It doesn't pay much, just something to pass the time, but today, my mom started complaining about her palms itching since morning. By noon, a patch of tiny red blisters had appeared, and she kept scratching them every now and then. Go get some balm for that scratch, you're so delicate. Grandma was stringing beads, her face full of disdain. Just then, a man's voice suddenly came from outside the courtyard. It was Uncle's family, and Grandma immediately beamed with a smile. Derek's here, Mom, I heard you found Tyler a wife, and she's a real looker. We came by to check her out. Uncle came in with Aunt right behind him, holding their youngest son Owen by the hand. Uncle is 10 years older than Dad, but his son is 10 years younger than my brother. After all their older daughters got married, the couple doted on their youngest son like he was the center of their universe. Owen is a little terror who always throws punches and kicks whenever he sees me. This time was no exception. Beat you up, I'll beat you to death. Go make money for me to spend. In my past life, I just thought he was being a brat, but looking back now, he probably picked up those behaviors from overhearing the adults right before I died. Grandma was still cursing me, saying if she hadn't been counting on me to work and earn money, she would have married me off to my brother long ago. See, even your nephew knows you're useless. Mom shoved me. Get to work. All you ever do is look for excuses to slack off. I settled back onto the stool and resumed stringing beads. Mom has always had a soft spot for boys, any boy, no matter whose, she adores. She couldn't stop pinching and stroking my little nephew's cheeks, utterly smitten with him. That red blister kept rubbing back and forth across his cheek. Grandma led Uncle and Aunt to Baiwan's side room, parading her around like a prize pig at a county fair. When Aunt heard from Grandma that she'd only paid $20,000, she exclaimed what a steal it was. Even my good-for-nothing second daughter fetched $30,000 back in the day. For a girl like this, you'd be lucky to get her for under $50,000 or $60,000. Mom, you've still got the magic touch. Grandma promised to buy Owen one too come spring, saying you have to raise them from a young age for them to truly feel like family. The family was enjoying a warm and joyful time together, and before they knew it, evening had arrived. Tonight is the wedding night for my brother Tyler and Baiwan. Though my brother was acting shy with his words, the excitement in his eyes was unmistakable. Grandson, make sure to give her this medicine later. It's from Dr. Maverick, and it's guaranteed to work. The younger brother held the powder. What's there to fear? I'm a man. If she doesn't listen, I'll just beat her. Some women are downright vicious. Be careful in everything. Have you forgotten what happened to Jake's family at the end of the village? I don't want my grandson to lose his manhood. In the end, the younger brother listened and entered the bedroom carrying the dissolved medicine. By then, Baiwan had already changed into new clothes and was sitting quietly on his bed. I stood in the kitchen, gripping the kitchen knife tightly in my hand. Baiwan had exchanged a few words with me over the past couple of days. I was certain she was the person on the other end of the phone call, but she called me her savior over the phone, and I couldn't recall ever saving her. Baiwan told me to trust her and not to worry about anything, but even so, watching her fall into danger because of my phone call, I felt a pang of regret. If she had cried for help, I would have gone to save her even if it meant being killed again, but no cry for help came. Instead, the sound of her and her brother's laughter soon drifted out. The two of them seemed to be having a wonderful time. As their laughter faded, the bed springs began to creak. My parents and grandmother were crouched by the wall, listening with rapt Attention, Dad stood up to push the window open for a look, but Mom yanked him back forcefully. Oh, what's there to see? Just the usual antics, Grandma chuckled gleefully. Won't be long now before I'm holding my great-grandbaby. Dad locked eyes with Mom. Honey, maybe we should have another one too, Mom bashfully protested but still followed Dad upstairs. That night, I leaned against the kitchen wall, clutching a kitchen knife. Trembling all over, the next morning, my brother pushed the door open. Mom, I'm hungry, he shouted as soon as he entered. Mom and Grandma had prepared chicken soup the night before, and they told me to bring a bowl to help him regain his strength. Quietly, I served a bowl for buy one too, and for once, they didn't stop me. The younger brother was heartily eating meat and drinking soup, with two women beaming joyfully beside him. Mom, I think Tyler's complexion looks rosier than yesterday. Exactly, this is what we call nourishing yang within. In moderation, it'll make you healthier and healthier. Tyler. What's this on your forehead? My brother rubbed the space between his eyebrows, and I noticed a tiny red mole had appeared right in the center of his forehead. Not sure, probably just a pimple. Buy one took the bowl of chicken soup from me and smiled at me again. After last night, Grandma gave Buy one permission to move around the house and eat normally. In her mind, a woman who slept with you won't just up and leave that easily. Still, she told my dad to keep a close eye on things around the village. Mom's hands had been itching for days, and this afternoon she finally gave in and went to the village clinic. Dr. Maverick prescribed her 2 tubes of antifungal itch relief cream. The medicine worked like a charm. The blisters vanished the same day I applied it. Days slipped by one after another. One noon, Grandma did something out of character and told me to fry 2 eggs for buy one. From now on you're free to roam around the village. It turned out that Meow knew had missed her. The very day Grandma broke the news, Mother went back to Dr. Maverick's clinic and bought several pregnancy test kits. The test came back positive. She was really pregnant. My legs went weak and I nearly stumbled, but Buy one caught me. She gave me a reassuring smile before stepping out into the yard to bask in the sun. Spring arrived, bringing warmer temperatures. Normally I would have joined the other young villagers working elsewhere, but since Buy one was pregnant, Grandma insisted I stay to look after my younger siblings. Ever since Buy one gained freedom to move around the village, she'd often go out for walks. At first, Grandma would secretly follow her, but later, realizing how genuinely docile she was, simply let her wander freely. As she spent more time strolling around the village, she began to catch the attention of other villagers. Barry's mom, how much did it cost to marry this girl into your family? Old Manley, the carpenter next door, came to our house. He was already the 8th household to come asking questions in recent days. 20,000, just 20,000, Grandma beamed with joy, even cheaper than before, and she got pregnant within a month of coming back. If you ask me, that's definitely a boy in there. Old Manley stroked his beard, his eyes drifting toward me. Your Luna's not getting any younger either. Grandma let out a dry chuckle. Let her go work elsewhere for a few years first. Then we'll see. Watching these villagers, whom I'd always seen as simple and kind-hearted, come knocking to inquire about prices made me constantly feel sick to my stomach, but after a moment's reflection, my surprise quickly faded. In my previous life, I was locked in the woodshed for a week, and anyone passing by could clearly hear my cries, yet not a single soul came to my rescue. That alone speaks volumes. Grandma openly brought a purchased woman back to the village, and everyone acted as if it were completely normal. Turns out they were all in on it. In that instant, all my hesitation and fear vanished without a trace. After lunch that day, Mom's hands started itching again. Since she had to go to the county with Grandma in the afternoon to deliver the beaded jewelry, she sent me to the clinic to pick up her medicine. When I arrived, I saw Uncle's whole family there. Dr. Maverick, could you take a look at this? What's going on with my son's face? I noticed Owen's face had broken out in tiny red blisters, exactly like the ones on my mother's hands. Dr. Maverick adjusted his thick glasses. This appears to be a fungal infection. He happened to glance up and caught sight of me. Dr. Maverick, I'm here to pick up medicine for my mom. The palms of her hands have started itching again, and she's broken out in a bunch of blisters. Hearing this, my aunt immediately grabbed my arm to pull me over for a look. Luna, your mom has blisters on her palms too. Do they look like these? Yeah, exactly the same. Damn it, that filthy woman. I knew she was a slob. Look, she's gone and passed the sickness on to my son too. Dr. Maverick motioned for us to quiet down. Just apply some ointment. No need to make such a fuss. Seeing the thick layer of white ointment smeared across Owen's face gave me a sense of satisfaction. My gut told me this thing wasn't going to heal properly. Clutching my mother's ointment, I hurried back home. Just as I was about to enter the yard, a figure suddenly darted out from inside, nearly colliding with me, Luna, walking with your head down. Are you trying to run into a ghost, Dad? What are you doing back? My dad looked at me with annoyance, came back to get the hoe. But your mother's hidden it somewhere. I'm off. I glanced at the corner of the yard where our hoe is leaning against the wall, seeing me in his way. My father shoved me aside. That's when I noticed it. A tiny red mole had appeared at the corner of my father's forehead, ever since I discovered that red spot on Father's temple. I began observing other men in the village with growing unease. What I saw made my blood run cold. The red moles weren't just on my brother and father. I counted over a dozen men in the village with identical marks. A violent shudder ran through me. What horrors had Bai Wan been subjected to during her daily excursions? But before I could look into the matter, something else happened in the village. Many people broke out in red blisters. The sudden surge of patients at the clinic naturally caught the village's attention. Lab tests confirmed it wasn't a fungal infection, but rather a skin allergy resembling a reaction to poisonous insect bites. Eventually, with the village chief's coordination, the village carried out extensive disinfection work. Since the disinfection began, Bai Wan suddenly became somewhat weak. She started staying indoors, no longer going out. Even with the warmth of spring and blooming flowers, she still kept herself covered with a thick quilt. Her belly was visibly beginning to swell. I took meticulous care of her every day, and Grandma even sent for Dr. Maverick. Dr. Maverick scratched the small red mole on his chin and shook his head. It's nothing, just normal pregnancy symptoms. Make sure she eats more meat, she's a bit too thin. After that, Grandma slaughtered 2 old hens and stewed them for Bai Wan, but each time, Bai Wan only managed a couple of bites. Grandma was so frantic she started pacing in circles, and by the end she was practically begging, "Bai, dear, you've got to eat something. Even if you're not hungry, that baby in your belly is. If not for yourself, think of my great-grandchild." If she weren't worried that upsetting Bai Wan might harm the fetus, I suspect she would have forced the food down her throat. Though her appetite was poor and her spirits seemed low, at least her condition didn't deteriorate further. After a week or two, the whole family had gotten used to it. Mom. But I started noticing something odd. Ever since Bai Wan got pregnant, she and my brother had been sleeping in separate rooms. She moved back to the side room, which I was in charge of cleaning. Lately, I'd find dozens of dead insects in that room every day, enough to fill a small dustpan. Grandma said the village disinfection was working, but I couldn't shake this uneasy feeling. That evening, I brought another bowl of chicken soup to Bai Wan's room. She took a few sips of the soup and gave a faint smile when she saw the worry on my face. Bai Wan weakly stroked my hair and whispered, "Don't worry, my savior, I'll be better soon." After that, she refused to say more, but the very next day after she spoke, her condition suddenly worsened. This time, instead of calling Dr. Maverick, Grandma brought an old woman from the county. I didn't recognize the old woman, but she seemed to know me. How this girl has grown. After saying this to me, she went in to see Bai Wan. Bai Wan lay in bed, her face sallow and beaded with cold sweat. "Maggie, look at the sickly girl you sold me. She's about to die with just her first child. We've always supported your business. You owe me an explanation. You can't just brush this off. That's 20,000 yuan we're talking about." Maggie's face was pitted with pockmarks, and her sharp, triangular eyes held a vicious glint. She walked over and pulled back the blanket covering Bai Wan, only to find that the cold sweat Bai Wan had broken out and had soaked right through the mattress. "This is fetal heat. It's your grandson's bad. See, that's to blame. Don't you go pointing fingers at me." Grandma's neck stiffened with the urge to curse, but with the men Maggie brought still standing in the yard, she didn't dare. "Maggie, isn't that a bit unreasonable of you to say?" Maggie's eyebrows shot up. "You were the one who jumped at the bargain and insisted on having it. Besides, you've had it for months. Who knows if you've beaten or starved it during that time." She pulled 2,000 yuan from her pocket and tossed it onto the bed. "Well, that's that. Giving birth has always been a brush with death for women. She hasn't crossed that threshold yet. Maybe she'll pull through in the end. If she dies, come find me again. I'll give you a discount on the next one." With that, Maggie left with her crew. Grandma watched them leave, her chest heaving with rage. She glared viciously at Bai Wan, itching to strike but afraid of harming the fetus. Finally, she grabbed a stick from against the wall and swung it violently at me. "You cursed jinx, I'll beat you to death. Beat you to death. Don't you hit her." Bai Wan suddenly spoke up, her voice frail, but her eyes hardened for the first time. "Back in my hometown, there's a way to prevent miscarriage. Get it for me. I know my own body better than anyone." The moment Grandma heard there was a way to prevent miscarriage, she immediately dropped the stick. "Really, what's going on? Is my great-grandchild in danger? Where I'm from, all the girls eat this when they're with Child, it's not hard to find, just catch one according to my method, cook it for me, and the baby will be perfectly safe. That evening, Grandma told the whole family about Baiwan's folk remedy. What, you want me to dig up dirt in the village chief's yard at night? That doesn't seem right. My father looked uneasy. What exactly does she need? Can't we just buy it instead? No. These traditional methods have their own specific requirements. Grandma waved her hands repeatedly. Little Bai said she saw that thing in the village chief's yard, right under the banyan tree. No need to dig deep, just place this jar nearby, and that thing will come crawling out on its own soon enough. Grandma took up the small pickling jar that Baiwan had given her earlier in the afternoon. The vegetable crock was newly bought from the village, but its contents were prepared by Baiwan. No one knows what they actually are. Mother peeked into the crock and saw something sticky inside. She covered her mouth, muttering, "What on earth is she digging up? Is this even fit for human consumption? I think it's called grassbird. That Bai girl comes from the mountains. Those folks will eat just about anything." Grandma couldn't wait and started trying to persuade everyone. Finally, my younger brother stepped up, looking like he was ready to risk it all for his wife and child. "I'll go. I'll catch it. Oh, my grandson is the one who really shines." Grandma looked at my brother, her eyes welling up with tears. Since my brother was going, Dad naturally decided to join him too. That night, the two of them sneaked over to the village chief's house under the cover of darkness. They brought me along to keep a lookout. I thought it would take much longer, but in just over 10 minutes, my brother and father returned with the jar. The three of us hurried back at home under the lamplight. I saw clearly that the so-called grassbird was no bird at all, but a hedgehog covered in fleshy growths. On its face, the hedgehog was gnawing on something pale and white with a crunching sound. The more I looked, the more it resembled a human finger bone, but before I could get a clear look, the thing disappeared down the hedgehog's throat. Baiwan emerged from the room with hands on her hips. When she saw the deformed hedgehog, she suddenly let out an eerie chuckle. Mom was too grossed out to touch the disgusting thing, so Grandma scolded her for being useless while fawning over my brother. "My dear grandson, your grandmother is personally cooking tonic soups for your wife, so she can give birth to a big, healthy baby boy." My brother couldn't care less about having a son, but being unable to get intimate with Baiwan these days was driving him up the wall. He just wanted the baby to be born quickly, so the two of them could share a bedroom again. That evening, Grandma carried the hedgehog to the kitchen. She wrapped it in a burlap sack and swung it hard against the ground twice. After the first blow it was still struggling, but after the second it went still. When she dumped it out, the hedgehog's mouth was full of blood, its body twitching rhythmically. Grandma picked up the kitchen knife and brought it down squarely on the hedgehog's head. Thwack! The blade struck the cutting board with a heavy blow. For a split second, it felt as if all the birds and insects in the woods fell silent. Then, just as quickly, the forest came back to life. Grandma carried the soup bowl to the side room, where the meow girl sat upright on the bed. Seeing the hedgehog soup Grandma brought over, she licked the tip of her tongue. She made slurping sounds with her mouth and quickly devoured all the hedgehog meat. To the family's delight, the hedgehog meat, covered in wart-like growths, proved remarkably effective. The very next day, the meow girl was already waddling around the courtyard with her swollen belly. "My belly looks even bigger now." Grandma was pleasantly surprised, looking at the size. Could it be twins? Before Grandma could even rejoice, devastating news struck. "My nephew Owen has passed away late last night." Owen suddenly spiked a high fever, and his body became covered in red blisters. The blisters were both painful and itchy, and he couldn't resist scratching them. After he did, his skin began to fester. His uncle drove him on a tractor through the night to get him to the county hospital, but he stopped breathing before they even left the village. By the time he died, there wasn't a single patch of unbroken skin left on his body. He was covered in blood from head to toe. My uncle and aunt wept through half the night, and at the crack of dawn, they rushed over to our house. "Hilda, you filthy woman, it's your filthy disease that killed my son." The aunt grabbed my mother by the hair and dragged her from the house out into the yard. My younger brother quickly escorted Baiwan back into the house. "What? Who died?" Grandma staggered and nearly collapsed to the ground. Uncle clenched his fists, glaring at Mom with gritted teeth. "My son is dead, Dr. Maverick at the clinic already said it was Hilda who developed the rash first. Then she touched my son and passed the rash onto him." Grandma froze for a moment, then let out a strange shriek, grabbed the fire poker by the wall, and joined aunt in beating my mother. My mother was being chased around the yard by two men beating her, but my uncle kept watch. Every time she tried to run, he'd kick her to the ground. Barry, help me, second brother, I'm just here to blow off some steam today, don't you?" Before Uncle could finish, my father was already putting on his clothes to head out. "Just don't beat him to death." My brother was even more heartless. He'd already started playing video games in his room that same day. My mother was carried back into the house, barely clinging to life after the beating. The commotion in our courtyard drew a crowd of villagers gathering to watch. That's when everyone realized these red blisters could actually kill you. Upon investigation, they discovered the blisters only appeared on girls and children, while men remained unaffected. Those with blisters crowded into the village clinic, starting medication and 4 drips to intensify the treatment. Every household was gripped with panic, and Dr. Maverick along with the village chief were especially frantic. They were hesitating about whether to report it. Reporting it would only bring trouble upon themselves, but if they didn't and something happened, the consequences would be far worse. Before they could figure out what to do, the men in the village also started having problems. The first to die was none other than Maverick, the doctor who treated everyone. Dr. Maverick went to the river in the dead of night and drowned himself. It wasn't until the next day that everyone found out, by which time his body had turned pale from being soaked. I went along with the villagers to see. I paid special attention to the area around his chin. I remember seeing a red mole on his chin back then, but now it's gone, leaving only a tiny sesame-sized hole. It looked as if something had burrowed out from there. I couldn't help but shudder and quietly retreated to the back of the crowd. Village chief, what on earth is going on? The villagers turned to the village chief with panic in their eyes. One after another, someone shouted, "Did Dr. Maverick give us the wrong medicine, causing the Zhao family's child to die, and then kill himself out of guilt?" As soon as these words were spoken, they immediately gained everyone's agreement. Otherwise, why haven't these blisters healed yet? That same day, the village issued a death certificate confirming he had jumped into the river and drowned. No one wanted to dwell on it any further. After Dr. Maverick's death, his wife, who was covered in blisters, was left completely alone with no one to care for her. Bedridden and aware her husband had drowned, she wailed day and night, but everyone in the village knew how severe her blisters were, so no one dared visit, not even her own children. After 2 days of mournful cries, she fell silent. The successive deaths of Owen and Dr. Maverick were merely a prelude. After that, strange occurrences in the village spiraled out of control. Blisters on several women began to fester, though not as swift as Owen's death. Their prolonged suffering was worse than death itself. Even more bizarre were the men. Several more from our village drowned. 2 others, like Dr. Maverick, drowned themselves in the river. Another jumped into a well. Finally, there was old Manley, the carpenter living next door to us. In the days before his death, he was acting erratically, ranting about vengeful spirits coming for him and saying he never should have buried that woman. He barricaded himself inside his house, terrified that he too would end up throwing himself into the river. After 2 days without seeing him leave the house, his son's family went to check on him and found him face down, drowned in the wash basin. The basin held barely enough water to drown a chick, yet old Manley had managed to drown in it, face submerged. In the twilight, the scene felt particularly eerie and horrifying. I noticed the red mole on his face had turned into a small hole. To my surprise, there was another person in the village who had figured out the pattern. The local troublemaker Jake revealed a secret that left everyone utterly stunned. Haha, lust is a blade hanging over your head. Jake made a show of being mysterious, deliberately going to a crowded spot, pointing at my courtyard and shouting, "Every single one of these dead men had slept with the fair-skinned young daughter-in-law of the Zhao family." Bullshit. My grandmother was the first to snap, hopping with rage as she yelled, "Jake, you just can't stand that my grandson is better than you." Jake was the man Grandma mentioned, the one whose family jewels got kicked in years ago by the trafficked bride. I'm not making this up. Your grandson's wife is wandering all over the village. If you're not keeping an eye on her, I sure am. His eyes were sinister, and spittle flew as he ranted. That Dr. Maverick, every time he sees her, he insists on taking her to his clinic for a chat, and the moment she steps inside, he pulls the curtains shut. Old Manley is no better. I saw with my own eyes him leading your granddaughter-in-law into the woods on the hill. Jake's story was so vivid and detailed that it was hard for anyone listening not to be suspicious. The village chief's eyes darted around, then he pushed through the crowd and stepped forward. "Old Zhao family, where did this granddaughter-in-law of yours come from? Hurry up and call Maggie to get to the bottom of this." Grandma had no choice but to make the call to Maggie. The village chief snatched the phone right out of her hand. "Maggie, this is Stanley. Tell me the truth. Where did you kidnap that girl you sold to the Zhao family from?" Maggie acts tough with her grandma, but she's quite respectful toward the village chief. "We were on a trip to the southwest to collect goods, and we came across her in southern Yunnan. She was passed out by the roadside with no one around, so I picked her up." Southern Yunnan. The village chief thought for a moment, and his face turned pale. "Damn it, that place is creepy. How dare you pick up someone who collapsed on the road like that? Now something's happened in our village. What do you plan to do about it?" Maggie also grew alarmed. What happened? Did the cops show up? Ugh, the cops dared to come. It's this girl who's responsible for the deaths of so many villagers. The village chief hung up the phone and slammed it hard onto Grandma, completely unlike his usual gentle and kind demeanor. This girl, she's probably from Miaojiang. Everyone exchanged puzzled glances, their faces full of confusion. What's this Miao frontier place? He offered no explanation, instead calling out to the others. I spent some years down in Southern Yunnan. This girl can't stay. A couple of you strong lads, tie her up. Granny immediately panicked on hearing this, spreading her arms wide and blocking the way at the front. No, she's carrying the Zhao family line. The village chief's men completely ignored her, pushing the grandmother aside as they headed straight for Baiwan. My brother darted out. Grandpa, you can't take my wife away. The village chief sneered. Your wife? He smirked. Are you deaf, kid? Every man who's slept with your wife has ended up dead. There's something sinister about her. It's a death sentence. What? The most intense reaction didn't come from my brother, but from my father. You little wench. Did you pull this trick on me too? His words left everyone in the family stunned, except for me and Baiwan. My mother, still recovering from her previous beating, lay in the inner room wailing and sobbing. The younger brother threw a punch at their father's face. You old bastard, how dare you? Cuckold me. Their father was in his prime and used to farm work, so the punch only enraged him. Their father raised his hand and slapped the younger brother hard 3 times across the face. You little brat, how dare you hit your own father? Their grandmother was torn at that moment, unsure whether to stop her son or to go save her granddaughter-in-law. In the end, Baiwan was dragged out of the house by several villagers. Take her to the village council, the village chief ordered. Your grandson's wife is tainted through and through. Even if she's with child, she's no longer acceptable. I tried to intervene, but bystanders grabbed me by the collar and shoved me aside. Throughout it all, Baiwan wore a faint smile and gave me a knowing wink. As the sun dipped westward, every able-bodied villager had gathered in the central square. Baiwan lay on the ground with her hands tied behind her back, like a lamb awaiting slaughter. The crowd encircled her, all talking at once. Auntie Bella, the midwife who was always so kind-hearted, held an iron hook fashioned from a clothes hanger. Chief, I can cut this devil out of her belly, guarantee both the mother and the spawn will be stone dead. Uncle Sam, the usually kind-faced village elder, stood gripping a meat cleaver, glaring viciously at Baiwan. This bitch killed my grandson. I'll chop her into mincemeat and feed her to the dogs. A circle of people surrounded them, each face twisted with murderous rage, like demons clawing their way up from hell. The village chief pushed through the crowd and stepped to the center, carrying a bucket of liquid. The Miao tribes keep insects. They must be destroyed by fire. Once she's burned, our lives will be safe. Hearing his intention to burn Baiwan alive, I charged into the crowd like a madman. No matter how capable she might be, is anyone truly immune to fire? But before I could even touch Baiwan, a tremendous force struck the back of my head. A club hit me hard and knocked me out cold. Before losing consciousness, I heard Grandma and Dad saying, since we can't keep my girl, let's marry this worthless thing to my grandson. She can go work in the city after bearing his child. When I slowly came to, night had fallen completely. I found myself tied to the great banyan tree at the village chief's house. Baiwan was no longer lying on the ground. Just as I was about to cry out, I saw Baiwan, trussed up like a zomzi, being led out of the house. Her disheveled hair veiled half of her face. The delicate chin that peeked through looked heartbreakingly fragile. You can't do this. It's vigilantism. Murder is a crime. The moment I shouted those words, I froze in sudden realization. These words, I feel like I've said them before. My father turned and glared at me, his eyes filled with disgust and contempt. He spat in my direction. If you dare repeat that nonsense your teacher taught you again, I'll beat you to death. What teacher? A faint sting pulsed in my mind as a hazy figure gradually came into focus within my memories. It all came back to me, the fundamental conscience of being human, those inviolable boundaries, all were teachings from one woman. She was the volunteer teacher in the village below the mountain, surname Zhang, Mrs. Clara. I couldn't stop shaking my head, trying to dislodge whatever was stuck inside. By chance, my eyes fell upon Baiwan's face. A version of her face from 10 years younger surfaced in my memory, so it was true. I really had saved her when I was 8 years old. That year, Maggie brought home a fair-skinned little girl who was about my age. She couldn't speak Chinese and never cried when locked away, her pale blue eyes constantly observing everything around her. Back then, I went down the mountain every day to gather firewood, and it was in the village below that I met Mrs. Clara. Mrs. Clara took quite a liking to me. She often told me stories and even mended my clothes. One day I told Mrs. Clara about the Little girl, she furrowed her brow and stared at me for a long moment. It took her quite some time to make me understand some fundamental truths. That was when I discovered our village was actually a hub for human traffickers. That night, I overheard Grandma and Maggie discussing selling the girl to an even more remote location. I rushed down the hill and found Mrs. Clara. After a moment's hesitation, she finally returned to the village with me. I don't remember how we managed to rescue the girl. I only recall someone chasing after us, with flashlight beams sweeping across the mountainside. At a crossroads, Mrs. Clara told me to take the girl along the narrow path while she went another way. That night, I led the little girl through the woods, having gathered firewood there daily. I could navigate even in total darkness. Eventually, I brought the girl to the roadside. My memory grows hazy again after that, the last clear image being villagers gathered at the cliff's edge, pointing down at something below. What about Mrs. Clara? I looked up at Barry standing before me. The village chief sneered from nearby. Isn't she right under your feet? I lowered my head and saw the hollow at the base of the banyan tree. That's where the tumor-covered hedgehog had burrowed out earlier. It was pitch black inside, but you could just make out some white fragments. There was also a yellow silk scarf. All right, light it up. The village chief suddenly gave the order. No, I screamed like a madman, my mind in complete turmoil as if being stirred by a finger. I was reborn into this life, only to end up causing harm to someone who had already managed to escape. It's all because I wasn't brave enough. I should have taken revenge myself. Even if I couldn't take them all down, I could have at least taken out those Zhao family bastards. I struggled desperately, but it was no use. The village chief's torch ignited the diesel, and flames instantly shot up over 3 meters high from the heart of the inferno. Baiwan let out a piercing shriek, a sound utterly inhuman. The ropes dug into my wrists with a sickening creak, but I couldn't feel the pain anymore. Suddenly, someone gently tugged at my sleeve. I spun around to find Baiwan hiding in the shadows, gazing at me with a playful smile. She pressed a pale finger to her lips, signaling for silence. I froze in shock as the Baiwan in the flames suddenly let out a deafening bang. The hemp rope binding Baiwan burst apart, sending sparks flying in all directions. Flecks of something sprayed onto everyone standing nearby. A round object came rolling to a stop at the village chief's feet. Her head came off. The villagers cried out in alarm as they scrambled back. The village chief stared intently, his face instantly darkening. This isn't a head. This round object turned out to be a giant monstrous insect with a human face growing on its back. With the explosion, a strange, intensely sweet fragrance wafted through the air. Everyone caught the scent. So thirsty. I need water. Among the villagers, several men were clawing at their throats with frenzied, bizarre expressions. Among them were my father and younger brother. A dozen men scattered in all directions. My father plunged into the very creek where Dr. Maverick had drowned. He couldn't swim, and after jumping in, he was bobbing up and down in the water. My brother seemed to have lost his mind. He spun around twice on the spot, then made a mad dash toward the nearest house's backyard. He scaled the wall and plunged straight into the septic tank. Grandma glanced at father, then gritted her teeth and went to rescue my younger brother. The village women also began to show symptoms. The midwife writhed on the ground as her blisters burst open. From each one emerged thin, wriggling worms. The insects swarmed as if drawn by the scent, frantic to break from their shells and multiply. Faintly, I could still hear my mother's agonized cries from inside our home. In an instant, the entire village was plunged into a living hell. Baiwan untied the ropes binding me, my savior. Today it all comes to an end. She gently smoothed my hair, her eyes crinkling into crescents. With every ounce of her strength, Grandma dragged my little brother out of the cesspool where he was drowning, but it was too late. His eyes were wide with terror, and he had already choked to death on the foul sewage. Her eyes darted around in panic. Her son had already been swept away, God knows where. Then she turned and saw me standing with Baiwan, and in an instant, it seemed to click. You little bitch, you two are in this together. You both killed my grandson. Staggering, she snatched up a firewood knife discarded by a villager and charged straight at me. She didn't dare touch Baiwan, but she had no problem coming for me. But before I could get close, Grandma let out a blood-curdling scream. A swarm of tiny black insects came crawling out from under Baiwan's feet, swarming all over Grandma's body. The warty hedgehog you killed earlier is the natural predator of my goo insects, and their ultimate nourishment. Baiwan's voice was soft but clear. Once you carry its scent, I can track you down wherever you go. The grandmother frantically stomped on the insects. Some were crushed under her feet, while others crawled up from her ankles to her shins. She turned and tried to run, but her aged body collapsed after just a few steps, soon swarmed by the creeping insects. Meanwhile, another dark tide of insects surged from beneath Baiwan's feet, winding their way Up the mountain, precisely where the village chief had fled. By daybreak, the area around the village chief's house was littered with corpses. That's when I finally called the police. Soon, 7 or 8 police cars arrived from the county. The officers who stepped up couldn't help but grimace at the scene before them. Accompanying them were staff from the epidemic prevention station. They took Baiwan and me away. They suspected our village had an outbreak of a new infectious disease and needed to quarantine us for testing. More than 30 other women were also sent to quarantine. All of them were trafficked women, and Baiwan hadn't harmed any of them. A week later, we were all released as witnesses. Baiwan and I were taken to the police station. An officer with stubble all over his face led me into an office. Almost everyone in your village, including Maggie and the others, is dead. Your family was hit the hardest. You're the only one left. The officer kept his eyes fixed on me as he spoke. Seeing my lack of reaction, he furrowed his brow. Aren't you upset? I looked at him calmly. I'd been given a second chance at life, only to nearly lose it again, all thanks to these villagers. How could I possibly be upset? Seeing my silence, the officer sighed and said, the investigation results are actually out. They were likely poisoned and started hallucinating under the influence of the toxin. He didn't go on, because it all sounded utterly absurd. They were human traffickers, the ones who buy and sell people. They got what they deserved. The officer looked at me and asked one final question. Could you tell me how you managed to contact Baiwan after 10 years apart? Her current number has only been in use for 3 years. This was probably what puzzled him the most. The question he couldn't wrap his head around. I shook my head. Even if I told him the answer I had in mind, he wouldn't believe it. The officer didn't press me further. Maybe it was due to lack of evidence. Or perhaps after witnessing so many bizarre occurrences, he had come to accept the reality of the situation. Eventually, the police confirmed my identity as a trafficking victim and began helping me search for my family, and so I returned to the village once again. Under the tree at the village chief's house, I saw Baiwan. The moment I saw her, the tears I'd been holding back all these days finally streamed down my face. Baiwan, I've doomed you. A flicker of surprise crossed her face before sudden understanding dawned. She rested a hand on her flat abdomen, gently wiping away my tears. What they're seeing are just illusions conjured by the fantasy goo. What's growing inside me isn't a child, it's the silkworm scent goo I've been cultivating. Baiwan gave me a brief explanation, and though I only grasped the gist, the important thing was that she hadn't been harmed. Learning this brought me some relief. You knew I'd come looking for you, didn't you, Baiwan? I remember when she answered the phone, her tone implied she'd been expecting me all along. Baiwan nodded. Yes, the fact that you've returned here means we've both seen the same person. One night, I also dreamed of her. She led me all the way to the pockmarked old woman who trafficked me years ago. My eyes widened in disbelief, and I clenched my fists. It's Mrs. Clara, so her surname was Sang. Baiwan pulled a wooden box from her bosom. The police said her killers are all dead now. Her remains were claimed by family, but I secretly kept this. She thrust the wooden box into my hands. I believe this is what you've been looking for. Inside lay a yellow silk scarf. The scarf showed signs of decay, still carrying traces of soil. I held the box tightly against my chest. That hazy figure came to mind again, with the yellow silk scarf fluttering in the breeze. We stood under the tree for a while before going our separate ways. Baiwan left me her address, saying I could stay in her village for a while if I wanted. I saved her life, and I'll be her friend for life. We hugged goodbye, and I boarded the bus back to the city. The moment I was rescued, I felt a profound sense of confusion like never before, but as I looked at the yellow scarf in my hand, I suddenly found my direction. I think I'll make the most of this life she saved, and try to save more people in turn. I took one last look at the village. Beneath the banyan tree, a shadowy figure seemed to wave gently to me, then dissolved into the wind. Story 2. On the day our sect selected spirit beasts, I abandoned all the rare creatures and sneaked off to Peach Blossom for some floral wine. In my past life, I exhausted all means to obtain celestial elixirs that awakened my contracted beast's primordial bloodline, yet during the Heavenly Prodigy tournament, the spirit beast I'd painstakingly nurtured recognized my junior sister as its true master. He forcibly severed our bond, shattered my meridians, and gouged out both my eyes. My junior sister stole my position as sect leader, becoming a world-renowned beast-taming prodigy, while I was branded a demonic cultivator who forced beast contracts. Scorned by righteous sects and disgraced by my own, my cultivation partner personally cast me into the abyssal demon pit to perish. Even as demonic cultivators drained my flesh and blood, I couldn't comprehend why the spirit beast I raised would choose her as master, or why my childhood sweetheart betrayed me. When I opened my eyes again, I'd returned to the early stages of spirit beast Contracting, Jing, I found you many pure-blooded spirit beasts. The most prized is an ancient black serpent with primordial bloodline. Hurry and form a contract with it. My cultivation partner Hale urged me. Today was the beast-taming sect's decennial contracting ceremony. I'm the young sect master of the beast-taming sect, yet I still haven't claimed my own contracted spirit beast. When my father fell unexpectedly, I became his sole heir as his biological daughter, the only one qualified to succeed him, but my youth makes the elders question my authority. The elders proposed a challenge. If I lead our disciples to victory at the Prodigy Tournament and bring glory to our sect, they'll swear allegiance. Otherwise, I must relinquish my inheritance to a worthier successor. That's why contracting a spirit beast today is absolutely crucial for me. Yet the agony of being devoured alive by demonic cultivators still lingers in my soul. With trembling hands, I stared at my unmarked palms and suddenly realized I've been reborn. My entire existence rewound to the day of the spirit beast contract. I clenched my teeth to suppress my emotions, not letting Hale notice the slightest hint of my turmoil. Seeing my silence, he coaxed persuasively, just nurture the dark serpent with your father's legacy to awaken its ancient black dragon bloodline. Who would dare disrespect you then, in my past life? His words convinced me to immediately take the serpent back for bonding. I retrieved the legacy my father left within my dantian, studying it meticulously to comprehend its depths. Following my father's teachings, I extracted my vital essence and nurtured it within my dantian for 49 days. As my cultivation rapidly dissipated, I grew weaker by the day. When the time came, I drew out the elixir infused with my essence and fed it to the black serpent. The serpent's eyes instantly changed. It drew nourishment from my essence, establishing a profound resonance with me. In that moment, I felt everything I'd done was worth it. Defying my weakened state, I formed the ancestral array to forge a pact with the obsidian serpent. A golden radiance erupted as the contract sealed, awakening the primordial black dragon bloodline within the serpent. For millennia, no cultivator save those who achieved ascension has ever tamed a spirit beast bearing ancient bloodlines. On the day we formed our pact, my spirit beast revealed itself as a long-lost dragon. My confidence soared, certain I'd claim victory at the celestial tournament and be crowned the supreme prodigy. Yet when I summoned the black dragon, it shattered our contract, pulverized my meridians, and gouged out my eyes. The majestic black dragon prostrated itself at Lyriel's feet, bowing in submission. Senior sister, I never imagined you'd stoop to demonic cultivation tactics just to secure your position as sect leader. Forcing my black dragon into a contract with you, shameless wretch. My soul has long resonated with the dragons. We share life and death itself. Did you truly think your petty contract could override that? Behold your backfired scheme. Lyriel denounced me with righteous indignation. The entire cultivation world watched the spectacle unfold, while the 5 great sects presiding over the Heavenly Pride tournament outright barred me from competing. What an embarrassment to our beast-taming sect. How is she even qualified to be the sect leader? Exactly. Hand over the late sect leader's legacy now. Junior sister is a prodigy beast tamer. She's the only worthy successor. A disgrace to our late master. Get out of our beast-taming sect this instant. My own disciples turned against me, rallying behind Lyriel as their new leader and demanding I surrender the inheritance. Without a shred of gratitude for my years of mentorship, severely wounded and drenched in blood, I lay motionless, staring at Hale in despair. He was my cultivation partner for 49 days as I nurtured my vital essence. He tended to me faithfully, witnessing even my transformation into an obsidian dragon when the Shen bloodline awakened. If only he would testify for me. Jing, how could you do this? I've gravely misjudged you. To my astonishment, he confronted me with an expression of utter anguish. Disbelief turned to rage as I listened to his words, until a surge of blood erupted from my mouth and my already faltering body collapsed to the ground. From that moment on, no one would ever believe me again. Lyriel struck my abdomen with her palm, attempting to forcibly extract the legacy from my dantian. Forgive me, senior sister, I cannot let the beast-taming sect's legacy fall to a dark cultivator and bring shame upon our patriarch. Fear not, our sisterly bond remains. Even without the inheritance, I shall still honor you as our first disciple. The crowd admired Lyriel's magnanimity, deeming such virtue worthy of greater responsibilities. The black dragon, however, believed I had humiliated it earlier, swearing to devour me to vent its wrath. If the black dragon doesn't seek vengeance, it risks falling into demonic obsession. I, Hale, am willing to sacrifice our bond and sever our cultivation pact to secure the beast-taming sect's future. Already weakened, the destruction of our cultivation pact left me completely crippled. Jing, we were once husband and wife. I don't wish to see you die, but since you've chosen the demonic path, descend into the abyss of fiends. Before the entire assembly, Hale personally cast me into the abyss of fiends. The demonic cultivator inside lunged at me instantly, tearing into my flesh bite by bite, until death. I never understood why my fiancé refused to testify for me, or why the black dragon I raised with my own hands would acknowledge Lyriel as its master. Reborn, I've become powerful enough to safeguard my father's legacy, never again to be trampled like an insect as in my past life. As for that disloyal contracted beast, good riddance. Memories of my past life surged through my mind as I faced the man who murdered my betrothed, testing him with feigned composure. With my father's legacy, I've no need to compete with junior disciples for spirit beasts. Let's gift this obsidian serpent to Lyriel instead. Hail Sneered, how could she compare to you? That gluttonous layabout would be lucky to contract even a wild boar, though his demeanor showed nothing amiss. The bitter lessons of my past life made me distrust him completely in this incarnation. Hale was an abandoned infant my father found and brought home. He grew up in our sect, and we were childhood sweethearts. The moment I achieved foundation establishment, he couldn't wait to ask my father for my hand. We were both lovers and family. I still don't understand why he would betray me. Now that I've been reborn, I'll uncover the truth, but I won't repeat my mistakes or be anyone's stepping stone again. Watching the obsidian serpent undergoing metamorphosis into a black dragon before me, I raised my hand to withdraw the essence blood from its flesh. The serpent let out a hoarse cry as its budding dragon horns crumbled away. Its transformation abruptly halted before collapsing as a lifeless, mangled corpse. With a cold smirk, I abandoned all the prized spirit beasts in my manor, summoned a skiff, and sailed alone to the Isle of Immortal Peaches, gazing at the island blanketed in peach blossoms, caressed by gentle breezes. The fury in my heart unexpectedly stilled. I must not let the shadows of my past life breed inner demons that would ruin my future. Only now have I truly looked inward, reconsidering what spirit beast to contract if I'm to triumph in the Heavenly Pride tournament. Just as I was meditating, Hale, who had been in seclusion attempting Golden Core breakthrough, suddenly emerged early and stormed onto Immortal Peach Isle. Why did you kill the profound serpent I painstakingly obtained for you? He demanded furiously. With the Heavenly Pride tournament approaching, a beast-taming sect disciple without a contracted beast is like a warrior without weapons. How do you expect to win the tournament and secure your position as sect leader? He pressed on relentlessly. Had I not remembered my past life, I might have mistaken his actions for genuine concern. I don't care for serpents, I remarked coolly, taking a sip of peach blossom wine. Be good, come with me to contract a spirit beast. If snakes displease you, I'll find another species for you. He urgently tried to pull me back with him. Instinctively avoiding his touch, I rolled off the peach blossom tree and walked leisurely toward the newly built thatched cottage. I don't want to form a spirit beast contract anymore. Hale's face darkened. No contract, that's unacceptable. Anyway, the elders don't think highly of me. Let whoever wants to be sect leader take the position. You, such a disgrace. Are you really going to let your father down? Hale seethed with frustration. But seeing me seal the thatched hut's door with a barrier, he could only grit his teeth and walk away. Watching his retreating figure from the window, I took another swig of wine, thinking to myself, this time, I'll expose your true colors. I couldn't care less about becoming sect leader. Father never demanded I inherit the position anyway, yet I truly need a spirit beast companion to enhance my cultivation and safeguard my father's legacy. But where could I possibly find such a rare and compatible spirit beast? After much deliberation, I ventured into the perilous Beastfang Mountains, hoping to tame a formidable creature, yet these savage beasts lacked spiritual essence, mere brutes driven by primal instincts, utterly unfit as bonded companions. I've transformed my legacy into a book, its essence imprinted upon my face. In a sudden flash of memory, I recalled my childhood, my father holding me in the grand hall of our sect, stroking his beard with a chuckle. A contracted beast is your soulmate, your companion, but never overestimate the binding power of contracts. Even friends may betray you. I abruptly snapped the book open and bolted upright. If even friends can betray you, what if that friend was part of myself? The thought consumed me. Unable to resist the urge, I raced to Flame Mountain to claim a rare fire essence, then journeyed to the blood pool behind the beast-taming sect's rear peaks. This crimson pool held the remains of countless guardian spirit beasts, sacred ground where none but the sect leader dared approach. Lest they perish from the backlash centering my chi, I took a deep breath and plunged into the pool. Countless malevolent energies surged into my body, unleashing excruciating pain that erupted through every fiber of my being. Gritting my teeth, I carved flesh from my own body, using the dark energies as a protective shroud to begin the ritual. After 81 days of torment, the blood pool churned violently as howling winds tore through the sky. Now draped in divine golden light, a crimson phoenix burst forth, soaring toward the heavens, cloaked in ethereal flames with crimson scales. Its Golden eyes surveyed all creation with disdain, until meeting my gaze in the blood pool, where I saw my own reflection staring back. With a mere gesture, it obeyed my will as seamlessly as my own arm. From my own flesh and blood I'd nurtured this peerless bonded beast, no celestial spirit, but a creature born of my essence, sharing my veins and vibrating with my soul. Ecstasy surged through me at the realization. I began weaving blood sigils across the pool, trembling with anticipation to seal the Phoenix Pact. With the contract successfully sealed, my mind was finally at ease. No one could ever take my contracted beast from me now. I picked up the gourd wine bottle and took a swig, only to find it completely empty. Realizing today was a joyous occasion, I suddenly felt inspired. Disguising myself, I hurried down the mountain to buy wine for celebration, but the moment I stepped into the tavern, I heard everyone buzzing about Lyriel. Heard Lyriel from the beast-taming sect contracted a pheasant. What a joke. Even a spirit fox would have been better. Your intel's outdated. She's a prodigy beastmaster. The pheasant is undergoing phoenix rebirth and will soon evolve into a blood phoenix. What? The blood phoenix reigns supreme among spirit beasts. Lyriel truly is a once-in-a-generation genius. Might as well hand the sect leadership over to her already. Haha. They burst into laughter before seamlessly shifting to other topics, yet I stood frozen in place, a chill running down my spine. Why did I ever get the mad idea to cultivate a blood phoenix? Lyriel has one too. I can't understand why every spirit beast I contract ultimately becomes Lyriel's. I returned to the sect in utter despair. The elders and Hale's group were already geared up, ready to depart for the Heavenly Pride tournament. Lyriel clung to Hale's side, coquettishly whispering something that made him laugh. They looked far more like a loving couple than Hale and I ever did. Lyriel was the infant girl Hale brought home. He raised her with meticulous care, overseeing every detail of her upbringing too. He cared for her more than he ever did for me. I actually got jealous at one point, but he just smiled and said, I only see Lyriel as a child. Why would you compete with her? I thought he'd take Lyriel as his disciple, but instead he asked my father to accept her, since father already treated him like his own son. He granted the request, and so Lyriel became our junior sect sister. Later, when father passed away, I succeeded as sect leader. He kept whispering in my ear, belittling Lyriel as untalented and lazy, but having watched her grow up, I couldn't bear to see her struggle, so we raided our cultivation vaults, showering Lyriel with elixirs to boost her cultivation. Hale spotted me in his peripheral vision and pulled Lyriel to stand behind him. Jing, you're finally back. Did you find a suitable spirit beast contract? You've been missing for weeks. Now that you've found one, summon it so the elders can see. After all, you'll be representing our beast-taming sect in the Prodigy tournament. Hale's eyes brimmed with concern, returning to the familiar warmth I remembered. At his words, all the elders' eyes turned toward me. Their gazes bore the same scrutiny and doubt as in my past life. Instinctively, I lied. I did find one, but something feels off, so I haven't made the contract yet. A ripple of laughter broke the silence as Lyriel came bouncing out. Senior sister, I really can't imagine what kind of spirit beast could satisfy you. Not like me, I'm easily pleased. The other day I came across a pheasant in the mountains. It caught my eye, so I formed a contract with it. Since you've inherited Master's beast-taming techniques, would you mind checking if this contracted beast suits me? She tilted her head with a playful smile and summoned her contracted beast with a spell. Blazing flames surged forward, revealing glimpses of a crimson figure. A chilling sensation shot from my salts to my skull, leaving me paralyzed with tingling numbness. What Lyriel summoned was none other than my blood phoenix, elder sister. When talent falls short, one must nourish their contracted beast with flesh and blood. Who knew it had come to this? It's practically part of my flesh and blood now. Controlling it feels as natural as using my own hands. Senior sister, what do you think of this contracted beast? Lyriel chattered incessantly in my ear, her innocent smile as devious as a demons. The elders gazed at her with fondness, saying, Lyriel, you possess remarkable talent yet remain unaware of it. Don't be so harsh on yourself. My body turned ice cold, swaying unsteadily on my feet. Good heavens, senior sister, what's happened to you? Come to think of it, I haven't named it yet. Since it's crimson red, let's call it Blood Phoenix, drawn by the phoenix's majestic aura. I stepped closer for a better look, only to meet its glacial stare before it spewed strange flames at me. I almost got burned and disfigured. Senior sister, how could you mess with someone else's contracted beast? Senior brother, look at her. Lyriel pouted and clung to Hale's arm coquettishly. It was clearly nurtured with my own flesh and blood. How did it become your contracted beast? I screamed internally, yet could only clench my fists, not daring to show a trace of it. If I were to argue with her in public, I'd surely be condemned by all, just like in my past life, to covet another's Contracted beast is considered despicable by the sect, the act of a vile cultivator. No matter what spirit beast I contract, will it always end up belonging to Lyriel, so all my efforts were just paving the way for her success. A bone-chilling despair engulfed me, suffocating and inescapable. All right, little junior, stop fooling around, Hale said while patting your head, then turned to me. Jing, quit being so secretive. As the sect leader, how can you be more coy than our junior sect leader? With the grand competition approaching, won't you summon your spirit beast for me to see? The elders spoke, but the look in their eyes made it clear they had little faith in me. Of course, with the blood phoenix, the king of all beasts, why would they care what spirit creature I could produce? I stared fixedly at the blood phoenix, unable to comprehend why it had chosen my junior sister as its master despite my flawless preparations. Seeing me utterly dejected, the elders, convinced I couldn't secure a better contracted beast than Lyriel, summoned all disciples for the celestial tournament. No one takes the sect leader seriously. Senior sister, stop daydreaming. Even without a contracted beast, you're still the face of our beast-taming sect. Lyriel peeked up from behind Hale, flashing me a triumphant grin. Always the troublemaker. Stop teasing your senior sister. Hale shook his head, pinching her cheek affectionately before turning to sigh at me, his face full of disappointment. Jing, since you clearly don't care about succession, let someone more capable in the sect take the position. The words were directed at me, yet equally meant for Lyriel. Lyriel grinned with smug triumph, already acting as if the sect leader's mantle was hers. Watching the retreating crowd, I clenched my fists in fury, stormed to the blood pool, summoned the crimson phoenix, and strangled it with bare hands. If it was never meant to be mine, then let it be utterly destroyed. The phoenix shrieked, heaven and earth darkened, and with a thunderous roar, the rain poured down in torrents. The blood phoenix vanished between heaven and earth. Staring at the pool of blood on the ground, I threw my head back and laughed. Let's see what Lyriel brings to the celestial tournament. Soaked to the bone, I stumbled back to the sect in disgrace. To my shock, Hale, who'd just left, burst back in, grabbed my wrist, and yanked me off the bed. Jing, are you insane? You actually killed your contracted beast again, you idiot. The celestial tournament is tomorrow. Without a contracted beast, I'll summon the elders to expel you from the sect. Watching Hale's furious reaction, I smiled playfully. How do you know I killed my contracted beast? Didn't I just say I hadn't formed a contract yet? His voice faltered, panic flashing across his face. As your sworn soulbound companion, how could I not know what's happening to you? My gaze darkened. The marital covenant bound us as the closest of partners, so long as we honored its sacred vows. It was precisely this mystical brand that made me trust Hale, yet father warned against placing too much faith in contractual bonds. Seeing my stubborn refusal to listen, his tone softened. I'm just worried you'll lose your position as sect leader, your father's legacy. If resentment takes root, it'll hinder your cultivation. That's why I'm so anxious. Everything I do is for your own good. Why can't you understand that? Enough now. Today we'll form a new spirit beast contract. I've prepared ample rare treasures. Success is guaranteed. As he spoke, he reached to embrace me as always. Whenever I got angry, he'd hold me close and coax me gently until my temper faded. 3. The mere thought of him being intimate with Lyriel makes me sick to my stomach. I slapped him across the face. First you tell me to step down, now you urge me to secure my position as sect leader. How many faces do you wear, Hale? My cultivation surpassed his. He couldn't dodge in time. His face snapped sideways, immediately swelling red. Hale's eyes darkened dangerously, but before he could speak, the door burst open from outside. Lyriel burst in, disheveled and panting heavily. She immediately lashed out at me. Senior sister, how could you be so cruel? You've killed your contracted beast again. Her eyes were red-rimmed, as if I'd committed some unforgivable atrocity. Hale also tried to persuade me. Jing, look, for tomorrow's elite tournament, just contract another spirit beast. Lyriel chimed in. Come on, senior sister, stop being so petty. I drawled deliberately. The sect already has your blood phoenix. Junior sister, unlike you, I've no interest in petty rivalries. Watching their faces cycle through shades of fury and panic, I stormed out the door with immense satisfaction. Startled, they scrambled after me, demanding to know where I was going. I burst out laughing. Boring. Let's go find something fun to do. Then I leaped into the valley of 10,000 beasts. Under their stunned gazes, what others saw as a perilous death trap had long been my personal playground. After learning of this ability, my father entrusted me with the beast-taming legacy the moment I established my foundation. I still remember that day when father excitedly took my hand and said, Jing, you're the chosen beast master, capable of resonating with all living things. Before I knew it, I'd wandered into the lair of the Beast King. Disturbed from its slumber, the creature was about to roar. In fury when I sealed it with a talisman, instantly taming its ferocity lying atop the Beast King's back, I pondered tomorrow's grand tournament of prodigies. No matter how hard I try, am I just paving the way for Lyriel's success? But I refused to accept this. There must be another way. Lost in thought, I drifted off to sleep without realizing it. In my dream, I saw my father leading me to the summit of Beast Valley. Jing, betrayal is part of every person's journey. A mere contract can never chain someone's entire life, Father said while patting my head. Young and confused, I asked, then wouldn't it be better if I just didn't have any friends? No, one cannot live without friends, just as a beastmaster cannot exist without contracted beasts. But when you have many companions, what does losing one or two matter? Father chuckled. I suddenly jolted awake, bursting into laughter. Then I leaped off the back of the Beast King. My cultivation is profound. Binding a spirit beast requires formidable mental strength to suppress it, lest it turn against its master. Having endured the trials of my past life, my spiritual power has reached unparalleled heights. If one contracted beast might betray me, what of 10 or 100? I slit my wrist and began chanting the incantation. By heaven and earth I swear, offering my cultivation and the path I walk, to forge kinship with all living creatures under the cosmos. Will you willingly form a pact with me? A golden light spread across the valley, drawing ferocious beasts from all directions. After consuming the radiant energy and gaining immense power, they all pledged allegiance to me. This time, I've formed contracts with 100,000 spirit beasts. Think you can still steal them? Lyriel. I rushed back to the Celestial Prodigy Tournament. Lyriel was dueling a sword sect disciple when she casually gestured, commanding her contracted beast to tear off half the woman's arm. The sword sect elder erupted in fury, only to be restrained by Hale. Hale gave a cold chuckle. What's this about, Elder? Injuries during sparring are perfectly normal. No need for such theatrics. The Elder fumed with bulging eyes, yet remained utterly powerless. Spotting my arrival, Hale immediately called out, Jing, perfect timing. Where's your contracted beast? Summon it now for everyone to see. Hale rose to his feet, eyes gleaming with greed. With a smirk, I summoned a spirit beast, only for it to immediately dash onto the platform and prostrate itself at Lyriel's feet. The crowd froze in shock as Hale erupted into raucous laughter from the high platform. Lyriel stood on the dueling stage, condemning me with the same righteous fury as in our past life. Senior sister, I never expected you'd stoop to stealing my contracted beast. Fortunately, my cultivation is strong enough to contract a second one, though the first still recognized its true master and eventually returned. Senior sister, I'm shocked you've actually resorted to demonic cultivation techniques. The crowd pointed and whispered about me, but I paid them no mind. Stepping onto the dueling platform, I smiled at her and said, oh really, then how about a duel? Junior sister. Lyriel eagerly accepted and laid down the wager. If I lose, I'll relinquish my position as sect leader and hand over the legacy. The whole crowd gathered for this spectacle, all betting on Lyriel's victory. Lyriel's eyes gleamed with greed as she commanded her two contracted beasts to charge at me. Just as the beasts' claws were about to strike, I raised my hand and summoned 10 contracted beasts. They instantly devoured the one that had betrayed me. Everyone was stunned. The beast-taming sect elders on the viewing platform rose to their feet, gaping at the scene in disbelief. Lyriel on the arena platform pointed at me in shock. How could you possibly contract so many beasts? Impossible. This can't be happening. You must be using dark magic. Yes, that's it. I forfeit. Senior brother, save me. She desperately tried to flee the arena, but my contracted beast gave her no quarter, pouncing instantly to sever her limbs, reducing her to a helpless torso. Hale rushed down from the elder's platform to block my path, shielding Lyriel behind him as he hurled frenzied accusations at me. You must be a dark cultivator. Only demonic practitioners could form contracts with so many spirit beasts. Damnable woman, why don't you just die? You're nothing but a heretic cultivator who deserves expulsion from our sect. The crowd was stunned. Why would Hale publicly berate his own fiancé over some Lyriel? I smirked coldly, pointing at him. Because you, Hale, murdered the master who raised you as his own son, and Lyriel here intends to kill the senior sister who watched her grow up. Gasps rippled through the crowd. This was unthinkable. A master is like a father for life. Killing one's own teacher violates the natural order and all moral principles. With a chilling laugh, I immobilized him and began a soul search. I've long suspected there was more to father's death than meets the eye. During closed-door cultivation breakthroughs, it's virtually impossible for outsiders to interfere. Only Hale and Lyriel could have possibly had the opportunity. What happened next left everyone in stunned disbelief. That fleeting look of venom in Hale's eyes when father reprimanded him for lacking ambition, his sudden interruption during father's critical cultivation breakthrough proved fatal. I watched him descend into demonic cultivation, twisting our sacred cultivation pact into a master-slave contract, with him as the master and me as his chattel. A master may claim any possession from his slave, such is the natural order. No wonder my contracted beast Liriel always has a perfect duplicate. Hale murdered the master who raised him, a betrayal of kinship and Tao. He's no longer human, unable to bear the pointing fingers around him any longer. Hale lunged at me in a desperate attempt to take us both down. I shoved him away with a palm strike, my voice trembling as I demanded, "Why did you kill father? He treated you like his own son. Doesn't your conscience torment you?" Hale burst into maniacal laughter. Ha. He brought this upon himself by passing the legacy to a woman. I'm the rightful sect leader. What gives you the right? If he acknowledged me as his son, why wouldn't he entrust the legacy to me? What makes you better than me? You're inferior in every way. You lack my talent yet crave instant success, I said, staring at him without another word. I cast them into the abyss, just as they'd done to me in our past lives. Empty words only serve to console oneself. Real change comes through action. Centuries later, I ascended with the king of monstrous beasts. As I rose, all creatures bowed in reverence. I had become the undisputed lord of all beasts. With one final glance at the mortal realm, I turned away without regret to seek my next great destiny. Story 2. 3 days before the freezing apocalypse, my best friend and I bought 2 stones at an antique stall. She obtained the ability of space, I obtained the ability of beauty. My best friend took over a supermarket's supplies for free, revealed her space ability, and was tied up, becoming the team's living food storage. Thanks to my extraordinary beauty, I attracted the admiration of all the males in the team, becoming the team's favorite. I took the opportunity when the team went on a mission to untie her and tried to run away with her. My best friend laughed madly and released the supplies to crush me. It's all your fault for choosing the beauty ability, which made me so miserable. When I was crushed to the point of lung rupture, I reincarnated to the day when I was shopping with my best friend. This time, I won't leave any of them for you. I declared that I had finally been reborn and could make choices. I quickly bit my finger open. I dripped blood on 2 black stones. As soon as the blood soaked in, I had a vast space in my mind. I didn't even pay attention to how my appearance had changed. I grabbed it just to prevent my younger cousin from using it to trouble me later. With such a vast space, I no longer needed to act obsequious, please others, or live by others' expressions. As for my best friend, she was really naive. After being reborn, who would still let you choose between 2 options. The villain dies from talking too much. After she calmed down from the great joy of rebirth, she was preparing to bind her powers, but found that the 2 stones had already cracked. 1. I put my hands in my pockets, watching her stunned expression with a slight smile. Greer, you also reborn, right? My best friend rushed towards me, grabbing my arm and asking crazily, if I say no, would you believe me? There's not much time. If you want to waste time arguing here, I won't accompany you. Only 3 days. Even with space I could only stock up a little. Renovating the house is impossible in such a short time. How could I have time to act out a tearful drama with her? I pulled away from my mentally unstable best friend. I took a taxi to a car rental company and rented a van. Although space can store supplies, it is still necessary to be discreet before the end of the world to avoid causing panic and investigation. After renting the car, I immediately drove to the largest agricultural wholesale market nearby. I still have over 2 million yuan in funds I can use. A large portion of it is the money my parents gave me to buy a house near my company for my convenience. At work, thinking about this, I called a video conference in the family group. Although it was a weekday, my parents answered the call immediately. Greer, you said you were looking at houses today. Did you find a model you like? My mother asked with concern, and my father was also listening carefully. Dad, Mom, what I'm about to say is very serious. You must believe me. The extreme cold apocalypse is coming in 3 days, and it will last for several months. I'm on my way to stock up on supplies now. You two should go home and have the workers do the renovation. Do as much insulation as possible. Don't be reluctant to spend money. Also, my best friend Neve and I had a falling out. She came back from the dead. In the previous life, she killed me, and now her mind is messed up. Don't believe anything she says. Also, the news about the extreme cold coming must not be told to anyone. I'm afraid we'll be in danger. I told my parents everything in one go. To say that there are people in this world who will unconditionally trust me and never betray me, it can only be them. My parents saw that I wasn't joking. Even though the concepts of the extreme cold apocalypse and reincarnation were beyond their understanding, they still chose to believe me. My parents digested the information I gave them in just 1 minute, then they immediately asked for leave from work, told me to be careful outside, and said they would contact the construction company right away. Moreover, they thought more carefully than I did. My father said, since the best friend is also reincarnated, she is a dangerous person, and we can't stay in a place she knows. My mother was worried about the money, and she decided to put the house, originally worth over $4 million, on the market at a discounted price through the real estate agent. Considering safety and privacy, Dad proposed to rent an air raid shelter on the mountain with the remaining savings and have it reinforced. Air raid shelters are naturally warm in winter and cool in summer, and they have plenty of space, making them ideal as a shelter base. I believe my parents can handle the infrastructure for the rear base. Hang up the phone, park the truck, and go to the stall to start shopping. I bought 500 pounds each of beef, mutton, pork, chicken, fish, and shrimp. I also bought a lot of processed foods. I bought enough vegetables for 3 people to last 2 years, including cabbage, potatoes, radishes, spinach, and coriander, as well as other vegetables. Considering that Mom likes gardening, I also bought a lot of seeds and planting pots too. I didn't forget to buy basic seasonings like soy sauce, salt, and vinegar, as well as some pickled vegetables. The most important part was the staple foods like rice and flour, as well as coarse grains, which were all bought in bulk, as if I had emptied the vegetable market. Also bought cotton quilt, drinking water, down jacket, charcoal, hand warmers, toilet paper, shampoo and shower gel sets, and other essential supplies for an apocalyptic cold scenario. Considering the extreme cold, heavy snowfall, damaged base stations, power outages, and loss of mobile phone signals, I also bought a shovel, candles, walkie-talkies, batteries, solar charging panels, radio, compass, and maps as emergency shelter equipment. After ensuring basic living needs, I bought a bunch of novels and entertainment materials like board games. I also remembered that in novels, the female protagonists in apocalyptic stories stock up on cat litter for toilet use, so I bought some as well. Since the space is large enough and has a refrigeration function, there's no need to worry about storage of supplies or issues like expiration and spoilage. I cautiously loaded the van to the brim, took a round around the area, then stored the supplies in the space, and drove back to the wholesale market. When I left the wholesale market, there was still over $1.5 million left in my account. There are still medicines, gasoline, and self-defense tools left to purchase. These supplies are difficult to stock, so I planned to spend the remaining 2 days collecting them. The night was getting darker, and most shops were closed, so I couldn't buy anything. I drove my minivan to the family room at the hotel my parents had booked and met them there. In my previous life, I didn't know that the extreme cold apocalypse was coming. When the temperature dropped sharply, I happened to be on a business trip to the neighboring city. Seeing the weather forecast with a red alert for low temperatures, I just thought it was a regular cold wave. I didn't expect that the next day, heavy snow blocked the city. The snow was so deep that it covered the hedges on both sides of the road. No matter how much I offered, no drivers were willing to take me back. My parents and I were separated until later. When communication failed, we were forced to lose contact before the supplies in the hotel ran out. A group of people who called themselves a civilian rescue team found me. When I was happy to go out with them, I saw my best friend tied up in the car's trunk. A beautiful but helpless girl like me immediately realized the situation. Meeting these people was the scariest thing in the apocalypse. In order to survive and save my best friend, I pretended to be a meek and flirtatious girl in front of them. I endured their perverted touches and teasing. I was lucky I didn't tell them my parents' location from the beginning. I didn't expect that my best friend, whom I worked so hard to save, would regard me as an enemy. Fortunately, in this life, I not only have a space to collect supplies, but I can also be with my parents to resist the extreme cold apocalypse together. Dad, Mom, I'm back. I was busy all day, leaving me no energy to think about those annoying people and things. 3. Seeing my parents safe and sound again, I felt a mix of complex emotions: relief, excitement, happiness, shame. I couldn't help but burst into tears, but my parents looked at me in a strange way. Right, I now have the beauty ability. My appearance has changed a lot. With my makeup, I look about 7 out of 10, but even without it, I can now directly debut as a celebrity. I felt a bit embarrassed and explained to my parents about the opportunities one seized after my rebirth. Greer, you're not wrong. Being kind to her is being cruel to yourself. My parents were happy about my growth and didn't hold back in their praise. No matter how your appearance changes, you will always be our daughter. My nose felt stuffy, and I hugged my parents tightly, crying until I was sobbing. The feeling of being with my family is really good. Stupid child, what's there to cry about? As long as your parents are here, you don't have to bear the weight of the world. Mom took out a tissue to wipe my tears and patted my back to calm me down. Okay, stop crying. Dad saw me crying with red eyes, and he felt bad too. He blamed himself for not protecting his daughter well. I told my parents my stockpiling list and we checked for any missing items. Greer, if it's really as you said, heavy snow blocking the city, then we should buy some skiing equipment, as well as lifeboats and inflatable boats. After heavy snow comes heavy flooding, Dad shared his thoughts, and I took out a pen to write them down in my notebook until my stomach growled. I realized I hadn't eaten anything since the afternoon. There was a barbecue restaurant downstairs of the hotel that was still open with my parents, and I quickly tidied up and went downstairs to eat barbecue. I was so happy I was almost about to scream after eating the fragrant lamb skewers again. I glanced at my vibrating phone and saw it was another unknown call. Neve really hasn't given up her evil intentions. I've blocked her contact information, but she still found a way to harass me. Greer, you don't want your secrets to be exposed, do you? You don't want your secrets to be exposed online, so find a way to return my ability. I just killed you in my past life out of jealousy, but I didn't expect you to cruelly steal my ability. The end of the world is coming soon. How am I supposed to survive without my ability? You're trying to kill me on purpose, you know. I looked at the text message Neve sent me in disbelief and muttered an insult under my breath. She killed me by accident, but letting her go is actually forcing her to die. People really are so hypocritical, even without powers. What's the problem if I knew the news of the apocalypse in advance, even without space? Getting supplies first would allow me to live better than ordinary people in the apocalypse. I remember what she said before I died last time, and it just feels ridiculous. She only saw the sweet words the men said to me, but couldn't see their despicable behavior. Even eating a pack of instant noodles or drinking a glass of water requires exchanging my body, and she still sees it as flirting. I remember when we were in college, all the guys who wanted to get close to me were blocked by her. She called it being a good friend by helping me find a boyfriend. In high school, she tore up the love letter in my drawer under the excuse of worrying about me dating too early. Everything has a trace to follow. I was still foolishly waiting until I was reborn to realize her true nature, ignoring the message. I happily finished the barbecue with my parents. I pretended to be a food vlogger and ordered almost 20 portions, asking the boss to deliver them to the upper floor. The barbecue here is delicious. I can stock up for future cravings. After leaving the barbecue restaurant, my mom asked me in confusion why I ordered so much skewers even though I was already full. Mom isn't angry about you spending too much money. It's shameful to waste food, Greer. For I smiled mysteriously, confirmed that the hotel had no surveillance, and then put all the skewers I just received into my space. My parents were shocked and couldn't say a word as the skewers disappeared in front of them. Even though I've told them about my ability, they've only heard about it. Experiencing it firsthand is even more fantastic. Dad, Mom, my spatial ability not only allows me to store things, but also keeps food fresh. Whatever I put in there, it comes out the same. The supplies I stocked this afternoon are all in the space. I don't want to keep secrets from the people I'm closest to. My parents shouldn't be kept in the dark. Greer, this is very practical. Even if my parents aren't around anymore, we can be at ease. I immediately rejected my mom's words with ugh. Although your space is very useful, we still need to keep some supplies outside. If one day the space disappears, we won't be too panicked. Although my dad was also excited, he still reminded me, your dad is right. We can't rely entirely on the space. I raised my hand and vowed to use the space responsibly, not to live off the land just because I had powers. With my parents by my side, I slept surprisingly soundly on the first night of my rebirth. After breakfast, I continued driving my small van to do some shopping, while my parents handled the transfer of ownership and went to find a construction company with the money. With the power of money, the construction company sent a team to work, ensuring that the air raid shelter would be renovated to the best possible condition within 30 hours based on the existing materials. The construction workers reinforced the overall structure, added seismic supports, repaired cracks, and did soundproofing and anti-seepage treatment. The entrance was equipped with multiple sealed doors, providing protection against radiation, fire, and theft. A hidden door was left as an emergency exit, installed a filtered ventilation system to prevent gas and dust from entering, separated the living area from the functional area. Under my mother's request, the growing area was equipped with hydroponic facilities. The construction tools also came with a diesel generator and a lot of diesel, as well as an emergency medical kit and common medicines. My parents' construction is in full swing, so I came to the extreme sports specialty store. I bought 10 sets of ski suits and diving suits, as well as many life rings, inflatable boats, and canoes. I also visited several pharmacies and bought enough medicine and health products. Because each person can only buy 40 L of gasoline per day, I had to go door to door in the residential areas near the gas station to promote. I used to offer extra money to others to buy for me by giving them laundry detergent and eggs, although I was chased out by a few people thinking I was a scammer. The result was good, and I finally collected 2,000 L of gasoline. Finally, I bought many powerful tools at the hardware store. On the way back, I passed by the pet and fish market. The space cannot support living creatures, but there is a place in the air raid shelter where they can be raised. Under the bosses look as if I were a fool. I bought the fish tank and replaced the ornamental fish with edible crucian carp and grass carp, bought 6 meat rabbits and 20 looting chickens. The supplies are all purchased, and I start to focus on the quality of life. My dad loves drinking alcohol. Buy my favorite junk food and bubble tea. Buy my mom's favorite pastries and cakes. Buy them all. 150 million was all spent, leaving only 3,000. When I returned to the hotel, my parents were still supervising the construction of the air raid shelter. I took out a bag of cucumber-flavored potato chips, opened the tablet to download various movies and novels, and sat with my legs crossed scrolling through my phone. I opened a short video, and the first one that popped up was from Neve. In the video, her hair was messy, her eyes were red and puffy, and she looked very exhausted. She cried, saying she was betrayed by her good friend, who stole her ability. She also said she could predict, and that the end of the world would come in one day, to prove herself. She will go live tomorrow night. Is the blogger reading too many novels? Why talk about the apocalypse and powers? Can you predict? Help me calculate when I will win the lottery. Blogger, I believe you. I knew my safe room and stored supplies would come in handy if I've profit. Is the blogger also playing a 4-character game? Except for some apocalypse fans, no one else believes what she said in the comments section. Neve, with a fierce expression, replied under the questioning comments, at 9 p.m. tomorrow. There will be a big drop in temperature across the country. Don't ask why. This kind of mysterious talk still attracted a group of people waiting for updates. Brothers, save a spot. I'm in W City, which is a small furnace. The weather forecast shows the temperature will continue to rise in the next few days. If there's really a big drop in temperature, I'll follow the streamer. Please kick +99. I really want to go to Neve's rented house and kill her right now, with her big mouth. The hot news she's going to reveal in the live stream must be about me. On the first day of my reincarnation, I also thought about informing the country. I'm just an ordinary person who is not well known. Even if I posted an article online, few people would pay attention, and I would be more likely to be called a madman. I don't have a way to directly contact the senior leaders, even if they really believed what I said. With only 3 days left in the limited time, they couldn't do much. I might very likely become the target of everyone's criticism because of this action, not to mention whether I, who have the ability to access another space, would be dissected for research. Reborn. Once again, I am very selfish. I just want to be safely with my family, so I decided to go see my good girlfriend, confirming that the space has all the hemp rope and tools. I called her phone. Neve, after thinking about it, I was wrong. I know how to strip the ability. I'll be at your house in half an hour. You must wait for me. You must wait for me to come and take you. When I opened the car door, the door frame hit my head. I suddenly thought, since the space can only store inanimate objects, does that mean living things put into it will also die? I looked at the quail in the back seat. I grabbed one, and mentally commanded to put it into the space. The quail indeed disappeared. Inside the space, I indeed saw the body of a quail. There are still 19 quails left. The number is unlucky. I'll just make it a whole number. I took out a stick from the space this time. I didn't try to catch it with my hands, but instead touched it with the stick. The little chicken was also taken into the space, and it had no sign of life, so this space is not just a hidden weapon that kills without a trace. How foolish must Neve have been in her previous life to have such a powerful weapon in her hands, yet be tied up and used as a granary. The guess was confirmed. I felt very confident. As long as the opponent doesn't have the truth, it's almost impossible for them to counterattack me. I suddenly lost my drowsiness and felt very excited. The drive that was originally 30 minutes only took 20 minutes to reach the building of Neve's rental. Neve rented a small, old, and dilapidated house in the city's slums, and the house had poor sound insulation. As I was about to knock on the door, I heard voices from inside. My girlfriend will come in a while. Blaze, you'll definitely like her, you promised, so you can't back out. Also, what I said about the apocalypse is real. A giggling sound came from behind the door. So I've already been sold. Blaze was a member of that perverted squad from the previous life. They posed as a civilian rescue team, looting supplies from every survivor. The elderly and children were directly killed, and males who refused to join met the same fate. Girls, especially the beautiful ones, were treated as breeding pigs, with no dignity at all. 6. This Blaze is a hardened criminal just released from prison, and the end of the world is like a paradise for someone like him. I didn't expect to have an unexpected gain this time. I knocked on the door, and after a brief commotion inside, Neve came to open it. Greer, why did you come so quickly? Come inside. Neve seemed to have forgotten how she threatened me yesterday, and she greeted me with a smiling face. Aren't you going to bring the person inside to greet me? I crossed my arms, expressionless, and showed no intention of going in. Blaze, who had been hiding in the shadows observing me, was already eager to act upon seeing me. Now that he was discovered, he was fearless. He was a notorious criminal who had escaped for over a decade after committing multiple crimes, so what was there to fear about a young girl? Brothers, the girl is already impatient, so we shouldn't be shy. Come out, everyone. As the words finished, 5 people popped out from the wardrobe, the bathroom, and the kitchen. They were all strangers, but if they can hang out with this scumbag Blaze, what good things could they be? I saw a group of people coming towards me with sticks. Blaze at the front was looking me up and down under the light. First he looked at my face, then my figure, and then my face and figure again. He nodded with great satisfaction. Guys, this girl is good. Let me have some fun first. Okay, the subordinates didn't dare to say no. After all, the boss eats the meat, and they drink the soup later. That's the rule on the street. They stood on both sides in a menacing way, ready to attack me if I resisted. Saying that, Blaze reached out to wrap his arm around my waist and pull me into the house. I sidestepped and quickly closed the door, taking out an iron rod from the space. I struck the several people like a drunkard's boxing style. I kept thinking about recalling the space. The whole process took less than 15 seconds, and Blaze and his henchmen, who had tormented me for a year in my previous life, were lying on the ground as corpses in my space. Neve was stunned. She couldn't understand how I had suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Shouldn't it have been me being humiliated and bound as a tool for stockpiling supplies? Just like in her previous life, I held the iron rod in my hand and looked at her with gratitude. Neve's legs gave way, and she fell to her knees, bowing repeatedly to me. Greer, please let me go. I know I'm wrong. I won't target you anymore. You can be sure I won't tell anyone your secret. A person cannot cry when extremely afraid. She didn't realize she was wrong. She was just afraid of dying, but only the dead can keep secrets, right? I had a change of heart and told Neve, you asked me why I could make them disappear. Thanks to you. If it wasn't for you, how could I have obtained the space to be reborn, and then killed them with it? I took the body out of the space and showed it to her. Now you know. You can rest in peace. Before Neve could beg, I put her into the space as well. Cut the grass. Don't leave the roots, or it will grow again with the spring wind. Getting rid of the troublemaker gives me peace of mind. Thinking back to the previous life, Neve could easily take out supplies and crush me. Then I could also store some heavy items in the space as a backup. As long as the area is open enough, I wouldn't even need to get my hands dirty to deal with those terrorists. 7. I drove to the abandoned parking lot. I collected a lot of scrapped big trucks and small cars. In terms of weight, the truck's tonnage is definitely sufficient. When I returned to the hotel, I received a message from my parents saying they were taking turns resting in the air raid shelter while watching the workers construct, and they wouldn't be back tonight. They also reminded me to rest well and come directly at noon tomorrow. I checked the supplies in my space to make sure nothing was missing. When I woke up in the morning, I spent all the remaining 3,000 or so to buy a bunch of breakfast, check out of the hotel, and meet your parents in the air raid shelter. The air raid shelter is built on the mountain and was originally used as a shelter for emergency protection. It cost a lot of money to reinforce. It can be said to be as solid as a fortress. When I arrived, the construction team had already cleaned up the renovation waste and left. My father and mother were cleaning. The entrance is large enough for me to drive my van in. I took out warm steamed buns and soy milk with fried dough sticks to offer breakfast to my parents. Then I checked the facilities of the air raid shelter. The inside of the shelter is 3 meters high, 5 meters wide, and 70 meters long. It runs horizontally inside the mountain from the entrance. The left side is planned as the living area, with 2 bedrooms, then the kitchen, living room, and bathroom. The right side is the work area, with a monitoring room, storage room, planting area, and breeding area. I took some non-perishable vegetables, dry food, and drinking water from the space and put them in the storage room. I and my father drained the water from the water tank and carried it to the car, then installed it in the breeding area, the meat and the loo. Ding chickens have strong adaptability and are jumping around lively in the fence. After our family did a thorough cleaning, we took out thick blankets and quilts, and waited for the arrival of the extreme cold apocalypse. It is the end of May, and for most areas, the temperature has started to rise. In southern regions, even some people have already started wearing shorts and short sleeves, so on the day of the big temperature drop, they were the most unfortunate. Many people were sleeping with air conditioners and fans on, and died from the cold. After we had a home-cooked meal in the evening, we sat in the living room scrolling through our phones and chatting. At around 8 p.m., a sudden drop in temperature began in Heilongjiang, dropping from 3 degrees to minus 30 degrees within half an hour. Then, the cold wave continued to attack, crossing the Qinling Mountains and moving southward. Even in the southern Cheong Island, the temperature dropped from 17 degrees to minus 20 degrees. People rushed to take out Their winter quilts from the bottom of the wardrobe. They rummaged through the boxes to find their down jackets and put them on. They turned the air conditioner to heating. I watched the short video platform, and on Neve's account, a group of people called her a genius. They urged her to go live, asked her what they should do, how long the cold snap would last, etc. Unfortunately, they would not have to wait much longer, however. With Neve's forecast, many people realized that this cold snap was not ordinary. Wearing a down jacket to the supermarket to stock up on supplies, the weather forecast on the mobile phone showed that the temperature for the next 15 days had turned into a low temperature warning. 8. The news broadcast also urgently reported that a cold wave was coming, reminding the public to stock up on supplies and not to go out unless necessary. Companies and schools also released notices of work and school suspension overnight. The temperature continued to drop until it stabilized at -50 at 4 a.m. People with IP addresses in the island region posted videos showing heavy snowfall in their local area on short video platforms. In the northeastern province, even hail as big as eggs began to fall. Cars parked on the roadside were all affected. People who went out to stock up on supplies were all knocked down by the hail and could not get up again. The worst off were those trapped on highways, trains, and airplanes. Trains are suspended, flights are grounded, and there are countless reports of plane crashes on the news. Along with the widespread cold snap, there is also snowfall. All visible objects on the ground are covered with snow, pure white snow, yet it makes everyone feel cold to the bone. I know, this is just the beginning. If we don't go out to look for supplies today, it will only get harder later. Mom and Dad are very upset watching the disaster scenes reported on the news. They can sit by the fireplace, drinking hot milk tea, all thanks to my daughter. The air raid shelter has good ventilation. Burning charcoal for warmth will not cause carbon monoxide poisoning. Mom gave me a jewelry box filled with gold jewelry. Dear, these are the dowry we have saved for you every year since you were born, and all the family's assets are here, no matter when. Gold is always a hard currency. You need to take good care of it. Being a parent, you should plan for the future. I held the heavy jewelry box, and my mother held me in her arms. The outdoor temperature has reached -43 and the indoor temperature can still be kept around 10 . I also brought my parents 2 thick blankets for preparation. We couldn't sleep all night, and later I used my cuteness and coaxed them into going to the bedroom to rest. The backup power supply of the air raid shelter is used bit by bit. We all know it's not yet time to turn on the air conditioner. It snowed all night, and many community property management companies arranged owners to start shoveling snow. I laid down oilcloth around the entrance and ventilation openings last night. As long as you touch the oilcloth, you can collect all the snow into the space. Melted snow can still be used to flush the toilet and water the fields. The most important thing is saving the labor of 3 people in the family. I put on my down jacket, hat, gloves, and goggles, and went out to collect snow. Even so, going out still made me feel the cold seeping into my bones. I opened the door quietly, but my parents still woke up from their sleep. After finishing, I quickly closed the door, but after being outside for a while, the cold on my clothes condensed into water. My parents told me to go rest, and they started to prepare food in the kitchen. Mom planned to make more steamed buns, baozi, and dumplings, and also some fresh noodles, storing them in the freezer so that when the weather gets colder and we don't feel like cooking, we can take them out to eat. The frozen foods I stocked up on are considered pre-made meals by my parents, which they think are unhealthy. Dad planted radishes and lettuce in the planting area, and used the old outer leaves of the cabbages to feed the rabbits. The rhubarb chicken is great. It laid 2 nests of eggs on the first day of moving to the new home. After staying up all night, I let my guard down and fell asleep comfortably on the soft and warm bed. When I woke up, it was already 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The filling made by Dad, the buns wrapped by Mom, gave off an enticing aroma in the steamer. I washed my hands and took a hot bun and stuffed it into my mouth. The skin was thin, the filling was full, and there was plenty of juice. Still my favorite cumin onion beef filling. In my previous life, I was trapped in a hotel, and in order to survive, I could only drink snow water and eat frozen food every day. Happiness is largely a result of comparison. After lunch, Dad went to the monitoring room for duty, and my mom and I followed the blogger on the tablet to learn to do the 8 brocades. In order to survive in the apocalypse, you must have a good body. We had a hot pot of braised rib chicken for lunch, with side dishes of potatoes, dried beans, and old tofu. Tofu is soaked in the broth, and the potatoes are soft and tender. 9. About to take a nap. Through the monitor, I saw a group of people lingering near the air raid shelter. This family must know something. That's why they paid extra to build the shelter. I saw the gate was closed, so there must be people inside. The bald middle-aged man speaking was the construction worker from 2 days ago. He was with several workers and their accompanying family members. Each of them was as solid as a bear. They all lived in the town below the mountain. After yesterday's big temperature drop, his son told him that an online prophecy master had revealed the coming of the end of the world. There wasn't much stored food at home, nor any cold weather supplies. Moreover, his son was right. After the power, water, and internet went down, everyone would be forced into a dead end, and there would definitely be looting and violence. If you know there are fat pigs, you should act first, otherwise, by the time others realize, you might not even get a hair of the pig. Bald remembered when the couple who came to supervise the construction accidentally let slip that they had another daughter. There were only 3 people in the shelter in total. They had more than 20 people and brought professional door-breaking tools. As long as they broke in, they could take over the place. Dad's eyes were sharp. He recognized the bald man from the surveillance camera. Greer, he's the worker who came for the construction the day before. I didn't expect him to come back with so many people the next day. Mom also worriedly held my hand, looking worried. What should we do? If they left a backup key during the renovation, we would be in danger. I opened the ventilation window on the door, took out the slingshot from the space, held a steel marble, and aimed at Bald. Then I let go, shooting it at a tree half a meter away. This was the first warning. If he and his people retreated, I didn't want to take it too far in front of my parents. I didn't expect the bald guy to be fearless. When his trace was exposed, he immediately called his fellow workers over to prepare to force the door open. I collected the snow to prevent being blocked in, but it actually provided them with convenience. Since you want to die so much, I'll grant your wish. The 4 people approached the door and opened their toolbox to start removing it. Through the door's surveillance camera, I saw them leaning against the door, each of them having contact with it. I simply used my mind to pull the 4 people through the iron door into the space, then instantly released their corpses. My parents saw my move and became so nervous that they stammered a bit. Greer, in the future, when your parents hold you, you need to control your thoughts. I felt a bit helpless. My parents didn't blame me for being cold blooded after seeing my daughter kill someone in front of them. Dad saw what I was thinking and became serious. Dear daughter, it's the end of the world, and we can't be sentimental. If you hadn't acted, they wouldn't have let us go either. Neither Mom nor I will blame you. Okay, 10. Dad's broad hand brushed my head, giving me a sincere lecture. The women and children waiting outside the outer circle were in disbelief, rubbing their eyes. Had they just imagined it? Why did it feel like their husband had just vanished for a second and then collapsed? Strange. Could it be that there's a spirit or a demon living in there? A group of people pushed and shoved each other, trying to send someone to check if the bald man was dead. I've already given them a chance, but they didn't cherish it. Several abandoned trucks are dropped from the space towards the crowd. Wails keep rising, until the sounds become weaker and weaker. I open the door and bring the toolbox into the space. I didn't look again at the people crushed by the trucks. They were all old people, children, and women, in freezing cold weather, and with injuries they could not possibly survive. In the following days, the temperature keeps getting lower. Even Cheong Island reached -60°. The time of snowfall is getting longer, and the snow is accumulating faster than people can shovel it. Most families don't have goggles, and more people are suffering from snow blindness. The authorities acted quickly, opening many relief bases on the 3rd day of the big temperature drop, but the heavy snow blocked the roads. What used to take half a day by car now takes at least half a month to walk with the whole family. This was still lucky, not dying on the way. It can be seen that exiling to Ninguda in ancient times was a very severe punishment. Before the internet completely collapsed, a short biography reads Son of the Heavenly Palace, and the avatar is blank. A blogger uploaded a video on the website. The content is extremely ostentatious. In a golden and magnificent villa, a fireplace is burning with a warm flame. When everyone had no extra food, the young master fed the dog with leftover steak, soaking in a huge hot spring pool. Next to him are models in bikini feeding grapes to each other mouth to mouth. At the end, the young master seems unsatisfied, walks to the basement, and shows a full warehouse of supplies. The account was deleted 5 minutes after the video was posted, but the netizens didn't forget. Someone recorded the screen and saved it, and then publicly collected the blogger's information online. When many people add firewood, the flame rises high. Within an hour, the young master's home address and family background were completely exposed. The comment section was full of netizens shouting to go to his house to ask for alms. Scared, those bloggers who had previously posted pictures and text secretly with a sense of superiority all fled and deleted their accounts overnight. No matter what environment, there will always be such foolish people. The criminals went to great lengths, but they couldn't match their quick thinking, it must be said. The efficiency of netizens is vast. The next morning, more than 2,000 people organized themselves to surround the Yen master's villa. More people kept coming. Some had axes, some had hammers and chainsaws, and others even had compound bows. When the villa security system activated and the electric grid turned on, it only stunned a batch of people, but those who were breaking the walls had put on insulated gloves. There were guards inside the walls continuously shooting arrows, trying to repel these rioters, but there were just too many people. The guards ran out of bullets, but the people still didn't decrease. It was as if they couldn't be killed. The person with the compound bow took the opportunity when the guards were reloading and shot an arrow straight through someone's head. This boosted the morale of the rioters. Someone cut down the trees on both sides of the road, dried them to make simple ladders. The people who went in first opened the villa gate, and then everyone rushed in. When they broke into the villa, they happened to see a group of people in luxurious clothes gathering gold bars, preparing to escape through the underground passage. The thugs were fired up, and at this moment, they were even more bloodshot. Why do they work their whole lives and still can't earn a fraction of what these people have? The son they protected was born into wealth and luxury. The whole family was hacked beyond recognition, including the dog that appeared in the video. Maybe it's the end of the world in extreme cold, no one is working, and such bloody videos can still be uploaded to the platform. I looked at the salty tofu pudding covered in red oil in the bowl, and I couldn't bring myself to eat it. Half a month of extreme cold, most areas experienced power and water outages. The official base received more refugees than the reasonable number, 11, a 30 square meter small shelter. 20 people were living and eating inside. The official announced the suspension of receiving refugees, but they promised to send troops to drop supplies, so people should not lose hope. My parents and I live in a spacious air raid shelter, and we just sleep all day as long as we have enough to eat and drink. Some groups of people who are not wise enough tried to target us, but they were all taken into my spatial pocket. I threw all the corpses on the path to the shelter, and those who are sensible will avoid taking that route. Until March of the following year, the extreme cold was still raging. My mother used to be a history teacher, and I was worried she might get bored, so I took out the books I bought when I took the supplies. Unexpectedly, my mother became addicted to time travel novels, criticizing the authors for not respecting history, yet she was completely engrossed. Feeling heartbroken by the heroine's suffering, my father, who was usually strong, has been a bit melancholic. I took out the skiing equipment from my spatial pocket and occasionally went skiing with my father. The breeding area in the air raid shelter has already formed a scale. There are hydroponic green lettuce, watermelons, and tomatoes, as well as cabbages and potatoes growing well in the soil. For meat, rabbits have been reproducing, giving birth to more than 70 baby rabbits in half a year. Dad made them into spicy and numbing rabbit slices to go with his drinking. The stockpiled supplies are plenty, so our family doesn't have to be frugal with food. For breakfast, we have buns or small dumplings, and drink soy milk. Lunch is a standard home-style stir-fry with 4 dishes and a soup. In the afternoon, we can have a snack with some desserts and drink some milk tea. Not having to go to work and being able to stay at home reasonably is simply too good for a homebody. On April 28th, the temperature finally started to rise. Within just 2 days, the temperature rose from -50 to 0 degree. On the third day, it directly increased to 30 degree. The snow melted quickly, and the country began a new round of heatwave and flood disaster. The city's drainage system could not cope, and low-lying homes were flooded, while low-lying rural areas turned into a sea of water. My parents and I changed the thick blankets to a bamboo mat, took off our down jackets, and put on short sleeves. When it's cold, you can just wear more to keep warm, but when it's hot, even if you wear less, you still feel uncomfortable. Even leftover food had to be stored in the refrigerator, otherwise it would spoil the same day. When the temperature outside the air raid shelter reached 50 degree, I was cooling off with the air conditioner, enjoying my mom's chilled mung bean soup. The high temperature caused various animals and plants to rot, and the flood spread the virus everywhere. Clean sources of drinking water have become the most sought-after resource. A person can survive without food, but not without water, and will not live more than 7 days, especially in high temperatures. Being without water for 3 days could lead to severe dehydration. Many survivors who endured the extreme cold did not make it. Fortunately, it seems that the heavens do not want to exterminate humanity. The high temperature apocalypse lasted only a month, and then the temperature returned to normal levels. Authorities began to vigorously recover bodies, carry out disinfection, and search for survivors. The national cohesion deeply rooted in the Chinese people tightly united every compatriot. By August, all cities in the third tier and above had completed disinfection and post-disaster reconstruction. Every surviving individual can apply for a set of housing. My parents and I were directly allocated a large apartment in the city of New York because we actively participated in the disaster relief